The rain in Sector 4 did not fall. It hammered. It was a relentless, chemically sour sheet of water that turned the neon-drenched streets into rivers of oil and reflected light. Above, the city was a masterpiece of oppression. Glittering spires of chrome and glass pierced the heavy cloud layer, disappearing into the clean air where the Protectorate citizens lived. Down here, in the shadows of the orbital elevator's massive tether, the air tasted of ozone and wet garbage. Holograms 3 stories tall flickered against the gloom, advertising off-world vacations no one on the pavement could afford and synthetic meals that tasted like salted plastic. Drones, shaped like sleek black beetles, hummed overhead. Their surveillance eyes swept back and forth in lazy red arcs, ignoring the rats and the people who huddled under the maglev overpasses. To the algorithms of the city, the homeless were not threats. They were barely data. They were zeros in a binary world. Noah wiped a line of dirty rainwater from his forehead and adjusted the strap of his backpack. It was patched with gray duct tape and held his entire life. He was 32 years old, though the street made him look 40. His beard was scruffy, a mix of dark brown and premature gray, and his eyes, usually sharp and scanning for opportunity, were currently narrowed against the downpour. He leaned his weight into the handle of his shopping cart. The front left wheel had a distinct wobble, a rhythmic thump squeak that had become the soundtrack of his nights. "Come on, old girl," Noah muttered to the cart. "Just 2 more blocks to the underpass. Do not quit on me now." He was scavenging the alley behind a tech repair shop that had gone bust 3 days ago. The corporate liquidators had stripped the place, but they were careless. They always were. They looked for the big items, the intact servers and the pristine monitors. Noah looked for the scraps. He knelt by a dumpster that smelled of burnt circuitry and rotting noodles. Digging past a layer of sodden packing foam, his fingers brushed against cold metal. He pulled it out. It was a sensory coupling from a VR headset. Cracked casing, yes, but the copper connectors inside were clean. "Score," he whispered. He fished a rag from his pocket, wiped the component dry, and tucked it into a watertight plastic bag inside his backpack. That was 3 credits at the junk market. 3 credits meant hot soup and maybe a recharge for his flashlight. Noah stood up, his knees popping audibly. He pushed the cart back out onto the main street, keeping to the shadows. The sidewalk was crowded with commuters rushing toward the subway, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of their comm devices. They parted around him like water around a stone, never making eye contact. To them, he was part of the architecture, just another stain on the concrete. He reached the underpass of the cross-city maglev. It was a cavernous space of concrete pillars and dripping pipes, dry only by comparison to the open street. Dozens of tents were clustered here, a patchwork village of tarp, cardboard, and scavenged sheet metal. "Hey, Noah," a voice croaked from a pile of blankets near the entrance. Noah stopped the cart and looked down. It was Old Man Sal, a veteran of the resource wars who had lost his pension and his legs to the corporate restructuring. "Evening, Sal," Noah said, his voice raspy from the damp air. "The humidity is terrible for the joints tonight." Sal coughed, a wet, rattling sound. "The humidity is bad, but the hunger is worse. You find anything good out there?" Noah hesitated. He had 3 credits worth of copper. He needed that soup. But he looked at Sal's shivering form, the way the old man's skin looked papery and gray under the harsh sodium lights of the street. Noah reached into his backpack. He bypassed the copper and pulled out a sealed nutrient bar he had saved from yesterday. It was peanut-flavored, allegedly. Found a stash of the good stuff. Noah lied, tossing the bar to Sal. "Do not eat it all at once. Sal caught it with trembling hands. You are a good kid, Noah. Too good for the gutter. I am not good, Sal. I am just bad at being selfish. Noah winked, grabbing the handle of his cart. Get some sleep. The drones are flying low tonight. Noah pushed deeper into the encampment, finding his usual spot between a support pillar and a vending machine that had been broken since the turn of the century. He parked the cart, draped a tarp over it, and sat down on his bedroll. He listened to the hum of the city above and the breathing of the people around him. He was invisible here. He was safe, or so he thought. 200 miles straight up, the silence was absolute. The orbital cruiser Ethelgard hung in the void like a dagger made of obsidian and starlight. It was a living ship, its hull grown from biosilicate weaves that pulsed with a faint rhythmic heartbeat. Inside, the air was scrubbed of all scent, cool and sterile. Lyra walked down the central corridor. She was striking, even by the standards of her own species. She was tall, her movements possessing a fluid, predatory grace that made human motion look jerky and unrefined. Her skin was a pale moonlight violet, marked with bioluminescent patterns that swirled across her collarbone and down her arms, markings of the high nobility. She wore armor that clung to her like a second skin, woven with living circuitry that shimmered with every beat of her hearts. Her eyes were the most arresting part of her. They were large, dark, and flecked with silver irises that shifted and spun as they processed data streams directly from the ship's core. She entered the briefing chamber. The door hissed shut behind her, sealing with a biological squelch. Operative Lyra, a voice boomed. It did not come from a throat, but from the walls themselves. I am here. High Counselor, Lyra said. Her voice was melodic but cold, disciplined. A hologram materialized in the center of the room. It was an elder of her house, draped in ceremonial robes that floated in zero-gravity currents. The situation has escalated, the elder said. The whispers in the lower cortex of the Empire are growing louder. The Resistance believes the Bloodline survived the Great Purge. Lyra kept her face impassive. The legendary Bloodline. It was a bedtime story told to frighten young cadets, a genetic anomaly from the dawn of their expansion, a sequence of DNA that could supposedly interface with the deep code of the bioships, overriding the command authority of the Council. It is a myth, Lyra said. We burned their genetic archives 5 centuries ago. Myths do not destabilize sector economies, the elder snapped. Myths do not cause our ships to stutter in hyperspace. We have detected resonance echoes. Someone, somewhere on that muddy rock below, carries the sequence. Lyra looked at the hologram of Earth rotating slowly in the display. It looked bruised, covered in the gray sores of cities and the brown scars of industry. And you want me to find a needle in a haystack of 10 billion humans? Lyra asked. No, the elder said. We want you to find a key. A compartment in the wall slid open. Inside lay a device the size of a human palm. It was matte black, sleek, and featureless except for a single strip of sensor glass. This is a gene resonance scanner, the elder explained. It is forbidden technology. It does not read medical records. It listens to the song of the DNA itself. If the Bloodline is near, this device will know. Lyra stepped forward and took the scanner. It felt warm, alive. Why me? Lyra asked. Because your family's standing is precarious. Lyra, your father's failed campaign in the Outer Rim has left your house vulnerable. If you find the Bloodline, you secure our future. If you fail, or if the opposition faction finds it first, your house will be dissolved. You will be nothing. Lyra tightened her grip on the scanner. The threat was clear. I understand, she said. Go to the surface. Use the cover of a corporate audit. Do not alert the human authorities. Do not trust the local garrison. Find the carrier. And when I find them? Lyra asked. The elder's holographic eyes narrowed. Then you contact us, and only us. Gravity was a heavy, clumsy thing. Lyra hated the feeling of it pulling at her internal organs as the shuttle descended. She hated the smell of the atmosphere even more. A thick soup of hydrocarbons and unwashed biology that the shuttle's filtration systems could not entirely scrub out. She stood in the command center of a mobile forward operating base, a sleek black truck disguised as a corporate security vehicle. She had shed her living armor for a disguise, a heavy matte black tactical suit used by high-end human mercenaries. A helmet concealed her alien features, projecting a holographic face of a stern human woman onto her visor if anyone got too close. Around her were 4 members of her personal guard, also disguised. They looked like terrifying corporate troopers, bulky and faceless. "Status?" Lyra demanded. "We have swept the Central Hospital, the crying sector, and the maximum security penitentiary." Her second-in-command reported. The scanner is silent. Lyra paced the small interior of the truck. 3 days. They had been on the surface for 3 days, scanning thousands of people. The scanner had not let out a single chirp. "The intelligence is flawed," she said. "The bloodline would be protected. They would be in the high towers, guarded by wealth and private armies." "Perhaps," the advisor murmured. "Or perhaps they are where no one looks." "Explain." "The human databases are incomplete," the advisor said, tapping a screen. "There is a margin of error of nearly 15%. The unregistered, the undocumented, the ones who live in the cracks." "The homeless?" Lyra asked, distaste coloring her tone. "You think a genetic royal is sleeping in a gutter? I think if one wanted to hide a diamond, one would bury it in the dirt, not place it on a pedestal," the advisor countered. Lyra looked at the map. It showed the heat signatures of the city's underbelly, the bridges, the tunnels, the places where the desperate clustered for warmth. "Fine," Lyra said, grabbing her helmet. "We sweep the Undercity, Sector 4, move out." The rain had stopped, leaving behind a heavy, suffocating mist. The underpass was quiet, save for the snoring of 100 people and the distant rumble of the maglev trains overhead. Noah was dreaming of a grilled cheese sandwich. It was a recurring dream, vivid and cruel. The cheese was melting perfectly, stretching as he pulled the halves apart. He was about to take a bite when the world turned white. He jerked awake, shielding his eyes. Floodlights, harsh, white, blinding beams cut through the darkness of the underpass, slicing between the concrete pillars. "Attention," a voice boomed from a speaker, amplified to an ear-splitting volume. "This is a sanctioned security sweep. Remain in your designated areas. Do not move. Identification scanning in progress." Noah groaned and sat up, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. His back ached. "Great," he muttered. "The alien tax collectors are working the graveyard shift." He reached for his battered tin mug, instinctively checking for water, but it was empty. Around him, the camp was waking up in a ripple of panic. People were scrambling out of tents, clutching their few possessions. Children were crying, silenced quickly by terrified parents. Noah didn't run. Running made you look guilty, and guilt got you tasered. He stayed seated on his bedroll, pulling his knees to his chest. He watched as the soldiers advanced. They were terrifying silhouettes against the floodlights, moving with a synchronized precision that screamed not human. They wore human corporate armor, but they moved too smoothly, too quietly. A figure separated from the main group. This one was smaller, leaner, wearing a long dark coat over tactical gear. A hood obscured the face. The figure moved from tent to tent, holding out a small black device. It hovered over a sleeping woman, paused, and then moved on. It hovered over old man Sal, who was shaking in his blankets. Nothing. The figure turned and walked toward Noah. Noah looked up, squinting against the backlight. The figure stopped 3 feet away. Noah could feel the cold radiating from them, a distinct drop in temperature that had nothing to do with the weather. "Evening, officer," Noah drawled, forcing a grin he didn't feel. "If you are looking for the mayor, he is sleeping in the cardboard box 3 aisles down." Lyra looked down at the human. He was filthy. His hair was matted. His clothes were a patchwork of synthetic fabrics, and he smelled of rain and old sweat. He was disgusting. He was exactly what she expected of this species when stripped of its pretenses. She did not speak. She simply raised the scanner. She expected silence. She expected the dull, flat hum of base-level human DNA, messy and unremarkable. She held the device toward his chest. "Scream!" The sound did not come from a speaker. It seemed to vibrate the very air. It was a high-pitched, harmonic shriek that set teeth on edge. The black device in Lyra's hand flared with blinding intensity. It wasn't just a light, it was a holographic projection, a 3-dimensional mandala of red and gold light that exploded outward. Swirling in complex geometric patterns. The mythic match code. Lyra froze. Her hearts hammered against her ribs. She stared at the device, then at the man. The entire squad froze. The other soldiers turned, their helmets snapping toward Noah with mechanical precision. The silence that followed the shriek was heavy, suffocating. One of the soldiers, a heavy-set trooper whose disguise was flickering at the edges, took a step back. "They scanned for the legendary Bloodline," the soldier hissed, his voice trembling with genuine shock. The homeless human made it beep. The words hung in the humid air. They sounded insane. Noah blinked, the afterimage of the red and gold light searing his vision. He looked at the device, then up at the hooded figure, then back at the device. "Okay," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "Look, I set off everything. Metal detectors, store alarms, ex-girlfriends. It is probably just the iron in my vitamins. I take a lot of iron." He tried to scoot back, his hands scraping against the gritty concrete. The soldier who had spoken raised his weapon. "Secure the target!" "Wait!" Lyra commanded. Her voice cracked like a whip, silencing the squad. She stepped closer, invading Noah's personal space. She dropped to one knee, ignoring the filth on the ground. She reached out and grabbed Noah's wrist. "Hey, buy a guy a drink first," Noah stammered, his heart racing like a trapped bird. Lyra ignored him. She stripped off her tactical glove, revealing a hand with long, violet fingers tipped with black claws. Noah's eyes widened. "Whoa, that is a hell of a manicure." Lyra pressed her bare thumb against Noah's pulse point. She could feel the frantic rhythm of his blood. It felt hot. It felt powerful. She raised the scanner again with her other hand. She brought it right to his chest, pressing it against his sternum. Scree thump, scree thump. The device screamed in time with his heartbeat. The red and gold light intensified, becoming so bright it illuminated the graffiti on the pillar behind him. The device was vibrating so hard Lyra could feel the heat through her armor. It was nearly overheating. "It is him," Lyra whispered. "It is actually him." Panic erupted in the camp. "He is a bomb," someone screamed. "Get away from him! Run!" The homeless crowd surged back, terrifyingly certain that Noah was about to explode. A scuffle broke out near the edge of the light as people tripped over each other in their haste to escape the blast radius. Noah looked around, wide-eyed. I am not a bomb. I am just Noah. Silence him, Lyra ordered. Standing up, extract him. Now! Before the local garrison detects this energy signature, 2 soldiers lunged forward. Hey, hands off the merchandise, Noah shouted, kicking out. His boot connected with a shin, but it felt like kicking a concrete pillar. A soldier grabbed his arms, pinning them back with bruising force. Noah struggled, twisting his body. To help! Someone. Lyra produced a small silver injector from her belt. She stepped forward, her movement a blur. This will not hurt, she said, her voice devoid of emotion. She pressed the injector against Noah's neck. There was a sharp hiss of compressed air. Noah's struggle ceased instantly. His eyes went unfocused. That is... rude, he mumbled, his head lolling forward. Load him, Lyra said. Go, go! The soldiers hoisted Noah's limp body as if he weighed nothing. They sprinted toward the waiting black van at the edge of the underpass, splashing through puddles. Lyra followed, her eyes scanning the shadows. She felt eyes on her, not human eyes. She tapped the side of her helmet, accessing the local surveillance feeds she had hacked earlier. The feed from the street corner camera flickered. For a split second, the image distorted, resolving into a sigil she recognized, the jagged eye of the opposition faction. They are watching, she thought, a cold chill running down her spine. They are already here. She dove into the back of the van. The doors slammed shut, sealing them in darkness. Drive, she shouted to the pilot. Erratic pattern. Get us to the safe house. The engine roared, and the van surged forward, throwing Lyra off balance. She steadied herself against the wall. On the floor of the van, Noah was sliding in and out of consciousness. The sedative was strong, but his metabolism was fighting it, burning through it with that strange high-octane blood. He blinked, his vision swimming. He looked up at the figure hovering over him. Lyra had removed her helmet to breathe. In the dim red emergency lighting of the van's interior, her disguise was failing. The holographic mask dissolved. Noah saw her. He saw the high, sharp cheekbones that looked like cut glass. He saw the skin that shimmered with a pale violet light, pulsing softly like a deep-sea creature. He saw the patterns of bioluminescence swirling down her neck. She was terrifying. She was alien. She was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. She looked down at him, her expression severe, calculating. She was deciding whether he was a person or an object. Noah's lips moved. His tongue felt like it was made of wool. You, he rasped. Lyra stiffened, her hand moving to her sidearm. Be silent. You look like a neon sign. That came to life. Noah slurred, a lopsided, drugged grin spreading across his face. Pretty. Scary, but pretty. Lyra blinked. The compliment was absurd. It was irreverent. It was entirely human. For a second, the cold, aristocratic mask she wore cracked. Surprise flickered in her silver eyes. She looked at this dirty, smelly man lying on the floor of her transport, destined to be a pawn in a galactic civil war, and he was hitting on her. Sleep, she commanded, her voice softer than before. Noah's eyes rolled back, and he slumped into the darkness of the drug. Lyra sat back on the bench seat. The van swerved, taking a sharp corner, disappearing into the neon haze of the megacity. She looked down at her hand. The scanner was still there. It was cooling down, but it still vibrated with a faint, residual hum. It felt heavy. She looked at Noah. He was snoring softly, drooling slightly onto the metal floor. They scanned for the legendary Bloodline, she whispered to herself, testing the weight of the words. And the homeless human made it beep. She realized then, with a sinking feeling in her stomach, that her mission had just ended, and her life, her real life, had just begun. And it was going to be complicated. The world came back in a wash of aggressive, blinding white. There was no sound of rain. There was no smell of wet asphalt or the familiar, comforting stench of decaying garbage. There was only the hum of high-powered ventilation and the scent of ozone and sterile chemicals. Noah blinked, trying to clear the grit from his eyes. He was lying on something soft, which was his first clue that he was in deep trouble. Soft surfaces were for the rich or the dead. He tried to sit up, but a force field, invisible and humming with a low-frequency vibration, held him pinned to the surface. It was not a metal shackle. It was softer, like a heavy blanket of pressurized air. But it was firm. He looked down. He was still wearing his street clothes, his cargo pants stained with engine grease, his flannel shirt with the hole in the elbow, and his boots that were held together by hope and duct tape. Against the pristine, glowing white of the examination gurney, he looked like a smear of dirt on a wedding dress. Well, this is definitely an upgrade from the drunk tank, Noah croaked. His throat felt dry, like he had swallowed a handful of sand. A drone, shaped like a teardrop of chrome, hovered silently near his face. A red lens dilated, focusing on his retina. Noah stared cross-eyed at it. "Do I get a mint on my pillow?" he asked the machine. "Or is this the budget package where you just probe me and kick me out of the moving saucer?" The drone did not answer. It merely spun a manipulator arm and extended a sensor that glowed with a soft blue light. The door to the chamber hissed open. It was not a mechanical slide, but an organic aperture, the wall dilating like a pupil. Lyra walked in. If she had looked intimidating in the rain-soaked underpass, she was overwhelming here. She had shed the tactical human disguise. She wore the formal attire of her station, a bodysuit of deep indigo weave that seemed to ripple like water. Over it, she wore a high-collared mantle of crystalline armor that floated inches above her shoulders. Suspended by a magnetic field, her skin, a pale violet, held a natural luminescence that seemed to brighten in the sterile light of the room. The patterns on her face, delicate swirling lines of bioluminescence, pulsed with a slow, rhythmic cadence. She was terrifyingly symmetrical. She was alien royalty, and she made the sterile room feel small. Noah swallowed his fear, forcing a lopsided grin onto his face. "I have to say, the 5-star abduction service is impressive," he said. "But usually, the kidnappers introduce themselves before they strap you to the table." Lyra stopped beside the gurney. She looked down at him with eyes that were like pools of liquid mercury. There was no amusement in them, only a cool, detached curiosity. "I am Operative Lyra of the High House Vial," she said. Her voice was clear, translated instantly by a device on her collar into perfect, unaccented English. "And you are an anomaly." Noah tested the restraints again. No give. "I have been called worse," Noah said. "Bum. Vagrant. Space waste. Anomaly is actually polite." Lyra tapped a holographic interface that projected into the air above his chest. Streams of data cascaded down, reflecting in her silver eyes. "Name, Noah," she read aloud. "No surname, no fixed address, no employment history, no medical records." "I am a man of mystery," Noah said. "You are a ghost," Lyra corrected, her fingers dancing through the light. "My database can trace a citizen's purchase history from the moment of conception. Yet you do not exist in any system until age 8. Before that, there is nothing. A void." "Where were you born?" Noah shrugged. the motion barely visible against the restraints. Foster care. He lied smoothly. It was a lie he had told 1,000 times. So often it felt like truth. Bounced around the sector. The system loses kids like me all the time. We fall through the cracks. Cracks do not erase genetic markers, Lyra said. She waved her hand, and the drone descended, scanning a beam of light over Noah's torso. A 3D projection of his internal organs appeared in the air. His heart beat steadily, a red pulse in the blue wire frame. Lyra studied the readout, her brow furrowed. Your bone density implies malnutrition during developmental years, she noted, her tone clinical. Numerous healed fractures, ribs, left tibia, right orbital socket. You have lived a life of significant trauma. Noah looked away, staring at the white ceiling. The inventory of his broken bones was not something he wanted to discuss with an alien princess. It is a rough neighborhood, he muttered. You learn to duck. Sometimes you do not duck fast enough. Lyra expanded the data view, zooming in on the cellular level. This was where the scanner in the underpass had screamed. This was where the impossible lived. She watched the double helix of his DNA spin in the air. To a human eye, it looked normal. But Lyra saw the shadow code. Embedded deep within the introns, the so-called junk DNA, were sequences that glowed with a complex artificial architecture. These were not random mutations, they were keys. This is not natural, she whispered, more to herself than to him. What? Noah asked, trying to crane his neck to see. Did you find the cholesterol? I told you, I eat a lot of processed cheese. Lyra ignored him. She was looking at a sequence that shouldn't exist. It was a biocryptographic lock, designed to interface with high dominion technology. It was a sequence that allowed a biological entity to speak to the living ships of her people. She had been taught that humans were primitive, fragile, useful for labor perhaps, but genetically messy and crude. Yet lying on this table, covered in the grime of a primitive city, was a being whose genetic complexity rivaled her own. This man was a weapon. Meanwhile, 10 levels above the secret facility, the rain continued to lash against the corporate tower. In a penthouse office that smelled of expensive leather and illegal cigars. A holographic communication channel was open. The figure in the hologram was shrouded in shadow, but the crest of a senatorial magistrate burned in the air above him. Report, the senator's voice rasped. Lyra has the asset, a second voice replied. This one belonged to Chief Kalen, a human security commander who had sold his species out for a comfortable retirement fund. She has taken him to the black site. Does she know what she has found? The senator asked. She is running deep scans now. If she is as competent as her record suggests, she will know within the hour. The senator was silent for a long moment. The House of Vale is weak, the senator said. They are desperate for a win to regain their standing on the council. Lyra might try to use the asset to leverage power. We cannot allow the bloodline to become a political bargaining chip. What are your orders? Kalen asked. Monitor her. If she attempts to report the full nature of the human's genetics to the council, intercept the transmission, and tell your team to be ready. Ready for what? To sanitize the lab, the senator said. If Lyra hesitates to secure the asset permanently, you will do it for her. Back in the White Room, the hours bled into one another. Lyra had not left his side. She was obsessed. She ran scan after scan, peeling back the layers of Noah's biology. Noah had stopped struggling. He was bored, hungry, and terrified, a combination that manifested as relentless commentary. Hey, Buzzy, he said to the hovering med drone, you missed a spot. My left ear is very itchy. Can you use that laser to scratch it? The drone ignored him. Lyra looked up from her console. Do you ever stop talking? It is a defense mechanism, Noah said. If I keep talking, I am still here. If I stop, I am just a biology experiment. Lyra paused. She looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time since the scans began. She saw the fear behind the bravado. She received a ping on her internal comms. It was a secure text priority message from the senator. Implanted control chip immediately. Ensure total obedience. Verify compliance. Lyra looked at the tray of instruments next to the bed. There was a neural shunt there, a control chip. It would override his motor functions, turning him into a meat puppet. It was standard procedure for dangerous biological assets. She picked up the chip. It was small, no larger than a grain of rice. Noah went quiet. He saw the chip. He saw the look on her face. What is that? He asked, his voice losing its humor. Lyra held the chip between her fingers. She looked at the senator's order blinking in her retinal display. Ensure total obedience. She looked at Noah's DNA profile again. The power dormant in him was immense. If she chipped him, she would break that connection. The interface required a conscious, willing mind to function at full capacity. Enslaving him would destroy the very thing that made him valuable. Or perhaps that was just the excuse she gave herself. Perhaps she just didn't want to extinguish the light in those sharp, cynical human eyes. She crushed the chip in her hand. She turned to the console and began typing rapidly. Subject resistant to neural interfacing due to cerebral trauma. She typed, implantation failed, proceeding with psychological conditioning. She sent the false report. What are you doing? Noah asked. Buying time, Lyra said. She walked back to the gurney. She tapped the controls, and the force field relaxed slightly, allowing him to move his arms and legs, though he was still tethered to the bed. I need a blood sample, she said. A deep marrow draw. It will be unpleasant. Noah watched her. She wasn't holding the scary chip anymore. You did not answer my question, he said. But go ahead. Take my blood. It is mostly caffeine and bad decisions anyway. Lyra prepared the needle. It was long and silver. She took his arm. His skin was rough, weathered by sun and wind. Her hand was cool, smooth, and alien. Noah flinched as her fingers brushed the inside of his elbow. It wasn't a flinch of pain. It was the flinch of a stray dog expecting a kick. Hold still, she said, her voice surprisingly gentle. She slid the needle in. Noah hissed through his teeth but didn't pull away. Lyra watched the red blood fill the vial. It looked so ordinary. She noticed a scar running down his forearm. A burn mark. How did you get this? She asked. Noah looked at the scar. Trash fire got out of control a few winters back, he said quietly. I was pulling a kid out of a tent. Synthetic fabric melts fast. You risked your safety for another? Lyra asked. He was a kid, Noah said, as if that explained everything. You do not leave people behind. Not in my world. Lyra withdrew the needle and applied a dermal patch to the wound. In my world, she said, power is the only currency. The weak are supported only if they serve a function. If a tent burned, we would calculate the value of the occupants before deciding to intervene. Noah laughed, a harsh barking sound. Sounds like a lonely place. Your Highness, Lyra bristled. Do not call me that. Why do you care? Noah asked, suddenly intense. Why does an alien princess, yeah, I said it, care about one filthy human? You have got spaceships. You have got magic glowing tattoos. What could I possibly have that you need? Lyra set the vial down. She looked at the projection of the galaxy on the wall. My empire is dying, Noah. It is vast, yes, but it is stagnant. Our ships, they are alive. They are bred, not built. And they are getting sick. They are ceasing to listen to us. The command codes are failing. She turned to him. Your blood, she said. It holds a resonance. A command key. You could stabilize the entire fleet, or you could turn every weapon in the armada against the capital. That is why I care, because you are a nuclear bomb in the shape of a man. Noah stared at her. He processed this. So, he said slowly, on Earth, I cannot even get a gym membership so I can shower. But up there, I am the apocalypse? Yes, Lyra said. Noah let his head fall back against the pillow. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. It was a sound of pure absurdity. My friends are going to love this, he said. Old Sal always said I was destined for greatness. I thought he meant I would find a whole pizza in a dumpster. Lyra found herself smiling. It was a small thing, a twitch of the lips, but it felt dangerous. Your friends, she said. The ones in the underpass. They are your family? We look out for each other, Noah said. We are the ones the city threw away. If we do not have each other, we have nothing. That makes us family. Lyra looked at the data stream again. You do not leave people behind. A wave of dizziness hit Noah. The marrow draw, combined with the stress and the sedatives, was too much. His face went pale. Whoa, he mumbled. Room is spinning. The monitors shrieked. His heart rate plummeted. Noah! Lyra shouted. She dropped her datapad and rushed to the gurney. The force field deactivated completely as his vitals crashed. Noah slumped forward. Lyra caught him. She held him up, her arm around his back, her other hand pressed flat against his chest, feeling for the frantic, thumping rhythm of his heart. He was heavy. He was warm. He smelled of sweat and grime. But beneath that, there was just the scent of a human male. Breathe, she commanded. Do not dare die on me. Noah took a ragged breath. His eyes fluttered open. He was inches from her face. He could see the intricate geometric patterns in her violet irises. He could feel the hum of the living circuitry in her armor against his chest. You are really bright, he whispered. Focus, Lyra said, her voice tight. No. Seriously, Noah mumbled, a weak grin forming. You glow. It is nice, like a nightlight. Lyra froze. She could feel his breath on her cheek. It was intimate in a way that violated every protocol of her caste. She was holding a human, a homeless, unregistered human, and her hearts were racing. She looked away, and for the first time in her life, a flush of color rose to her cheeks, a darker shade of violet. I am stabilizing your blood pressure, she said, her voice shaking slightly. Do not read into it. She laid him back down gently. She pulled away, smoothing her armor, trying to regain her composure. She turned back to the main console to check the final analysis of the deep marrow scan. The results were finished processing. The text on the screen was read, Subject identity confirmed. Genetic lineage, progenitor dynasty. Match percentage, 100. Lyra stopped breathing. The progenitors were the founding myth of the empire. They were the ones who sang the first ships into existence. They were supposed to be extinct for 1,000 years. Noah wasn't just a carrier of a random mutation. He is not a key, Lyra whispered. He is the king. She looked back at Noah. He was rubbing his eyes, looking small and fragile on the white table. You are of the royal bloodline, she said, her voice hollow. The true line. Your claim to the throne supersedes the entire council. Noah looked at her. Lady, he said tiredly. I have $3 and a bus pass that expired last month. I am not royalty. You are, she insisted. The markers are undeniable. You are the heir to the High Dominion. Noah laughed. It was a bitter, angry sound. Heir? He spat. I ate out of a trash can yesterday. Where were my royal guards then? Where was my empire when I was freezing in the subway tunnels? If I am royalty, then your universe is a sick joke. Lyra opened her mouth to argue, but the facility's alarms cut her off. Alert! Alert! Security breach! Lyra spun around. She accessed the security feeds. A transport had docked at the upper level. Soldiers in unmarked gray armor were pouring into the facility. They were not her troops. They moved with the lethal efficiency of a liquidation squad. The senator, she realized. He did not trust me. Her datapad pinged. It was a notification from the planetary network. A video file was trending on the black market feeds. She opened it. It was shaky footage, taken from a hidden camera in the underpass. It showed the scanner glowing red and gold. It showed Noah. The caption read, "The legendary Bloodline found. Highest bounty." They leaked it, Lyra said, horror dawning on her. The spy in my crew. Noah sat up, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Why are the lights flashing red? That is never good. Red means fire, or police, or bad sushi. They are here to kill you, Lyra said. She looked at the screen. The kill team was breaching the elevator. They would be here in 2 minutes. She looked at Noah. He was the most valuable asset in the galaxy. If she handed him over to the senator, she would be rewarded. Her family would be safe. The status quo would be preserved. Noah would be dissected, his genetic material harvested, and his consciousness discarded. She looked at his hands, calloused, scarred, the hands of a man who pulled children out of fires. She remembered the way he had looked at her, not as a superior, not as a monster, but as a person. You do not leave people behind. Lyra made a noise in her throat, a growl of frustration. She tapped a sequence into the console. Security protocols, disabled, containment, disengaged. The force field vanished completely. The restraints retracted. Noah sat up, rubbing his wrists. What is happening? Lyra walked over to the 2 guards stationed at the door. They were looking at their communicators, confused by the alarms. I am sorry, she said. She moved with blinding speed. She struck the first guard in the throat with the ridge of her hand, collapsing his trachea. As he fell, she spun and drove her knee into the second guard's solar plexus, followed by a precision strike to the temple. Both guards hit the floor, unconscious. Noah stared, his jaw dropping. Remind me never to make you angry, he whispered. Lyra turned to him. Her eyes were wild. Get up, she ordered. We are leaving. Noah slid off the table. His legs were wobbly, but he stood. Leaving? Where? Anywhere but here, Lyra said. The senator has sent a kill team. Every faction in the city knows your face. You are a target. Noah. She tossed him a pair of boots she had taken from a locker, standard issue flight boots. Put these on. Your shoes are falling apart. Noah pulled the boots on. They fit perfectly. Why are you doing this? He asked, looking up at her. You were the one who kidnapped me. You are one of them. I was, Lyra said. She picked up a plasma pistol from one of the fallen guards and checked the charge. But I will not let them butcher you. I will not let them turn you into a spare part. She looked at him, her gaze intense. Do you trust me? Noah looked at the weapon in her hand. He looked at the door where the sounds of heavy boots were getting closer. He looked at Lyra, the alien princess who had just beaten up her own employees to save a homeless guy. He grinned. It was a terrified grin, but it was real. "Well," he said, "if I am going to overthrow an evil space empire, I would prefer to do it with the prettiest traitor in the room." Lyra grimaced at the compliment, but the bioluminescence on her neck flared brighter for a second. "Stay behind me," she said, "and keep your head down." She blasted the control panel of the door, locking it fused shut, and then turned to the ventilation grate in the corner. She kicked it open. "Maintenance tunnels," she said. "It will be tight." They crawled into the darkness just as the main door began to melt under the heat of a plasma cutter. The tunnels were cramped, smelling of recycled air and grease. It was dark, lit only by the faint glow of Lyra's skin tattoos. They moved fast. Noah scrambled on his hands and knees, struggling to keep up with Lyra's fluid movements. "Wait," he panted. Lyra stopped and turned back. In the narrow shaft, there was no room to move. They were pressed together. Noah could feel the heat radiating from her armor. "We have to go down," Lyra whispered, "to the sublevels. Then we can access the sewer output and dump out into the river." "Sewer output," Noah muttered. "Great, my natural habitat." A drone buzzed past the grate above them. They froze. Lyra pressed herself against him to make room for the drone to pass the intersection. Her face was inches from his neck. Noah held his breath. He could smell her, a scent like ozone and electric rain. He could feel the hard composite of her armor and the softness of the body beneath it. His hand, seeking purchase, gripped her waist. It was slender, firm. She did not pull away. She turned her head, her silver eyes meeting his in the gloom. The adrenaline of the escape was mixing with something else, a tension that felt like gravity. "You are heavy," she whispered, but her voice lacked its usual bite. "You are glowing," he whispered back. "It is distracting." The drone passed. "Move," Lyra commanded, her voice slightly breathless. They scrambled downward, sliding down ladders and squeezing through pipes. Finally, they reached a grate that smelled of the city. Lyra kicked it out. It clattered onto wet concrete. They burst out into the night. They were in an alleyway, miles from the corporate tower. The rain had started again. The city was screaming. Sirens wailed in the distance, and searchlights swept the sky like the beams of a prison watchtower. Noah stood up, wiping the grime from his face. He took a deep breath of the polluted air. It tasted like freedom. Lyra stood beside him. She looked up at the tower they had escaped. It was a monolith of black glass. And somewhere inside, men were hunting for them. She looked down at her hands. She had struck an officer. She had defied a direct order from a senator. She had stolen a Class 1 asset. She was a fugitive. She looked at Noah. He was wet, dirty, and wearing stolen boots. He was looking at her with a mixture of awe and fear. "Well," Noah said, pushing wet hair out of his eyes, "that was a hell of a first date. What do we do for the second one?" Lyra holstered the plasma pistol. She looked at the scanner, which she had clipped to her belt. It was silent now, but she knew what it had sung. "Now," she said, looking into the dark, dangerous sprawl of the city. "Now we run, and we try to figure out how a man who sleeps in a box is supposed to save the galaxy." She grabbed his hand. "Come on, Your Highness," she said, a dry smile touching her lips. Noah squeezed her hand back. "After you, spaceman." They ran into the neon shadows, leaving the order of the Empire behind them. The city was a labyrinth of rust and rain, a vertical sprawl of neon signs reflecting off wet metal. On the rooftop of the abandoned textile district factory, Noah's boots slammed against the corrugated steel, each step sending a spray of dirty water into the air. His lungs burned, his breath coming in ragged gasps that tasted of copper and ozone. "Move!" Lyra's voice cut through the wind, sharp and commanding. She was 10 paces ahead of him, a blur of violet light and sleek motion. She vaulted over a maze of ventilation ducts with impossible grace, her alien physiology making the treacherous footing look like a polished dance floor. A searchlight swept across the roof, a blinding cone of white that turned the rain into falling diamonds. "Down," Noah hissed, throwing himself behind a rusted HVAC unit. Lyra slid into the shadows beside him, pressing her back against the cold metal. They were shoulder to shoulder, chest to chest in the cramped space. Noah could feel the heat radiating from her armor, the hum of the living circuitry syncing with the frantic rhythm of his own heart. He looked at her. Raindrops clung to her lashes, and the bioluminescent patterns on her skin pulsed rapidly, a silent alarm. She raised her wrist, tapping furious commands into a holographic interface that projected from her gauntlet. Her eyes, those unsettling silver pools, darted across data streams only she could see. "What are you doing?" Noah whispered, trying to catch his breath. "Checking the weather report? Because I can tell you it is wet. I am hacking the municipal surveillance grid," Lyra murmured, not looking up. "The senator has deployed hunter-seeker drones. I am creating a phantom signal 3 blocks east to draw them off." Noah watched her fingers dance. They were long, elegant, and moved with a speed that blurred in the dim light. It was mesmerizing. He had seen hackers in the Undercity, twitchy kids with modified decks and caffeine addictions, but this was different. This was like watching a maestro conduct a symphony of code. "Done," she said, the hologram snapping shut. "We have a 3-minute window before the blind spot closes. We need to move. There is a safe house near the spaceport. It is shielded." "No," Noah said. Lyra froze, turning to look at him. "Excuse me?" "We are not going to the spaceport," Noah said, wiping water from his eyes. "We are going back to the underpass." Lyra stared at him as if he had suggested they juggle live grenades. "Are you suffering from oxygen deprivation?" she asked. "That is the first place they will look. It is a kill box." "I have people there," Noah said, his voice hard. "Sal, Maya, the kid, Jinx. If those troopers are looking for me, they are going to tear that camp apart until someone talks. I am not leaving them to get stomped on because of my magical DNA." "They are irrelevant," Lyra snapped. Her patience, already frayed by treason and adrenaline, was snapping. "You are the priority. If the senator catches you, the entire geopolitical balance of the sector shifts. We cannot risk the mission for a few drifters." Noah grabbed her arm. It was a reflex, a stupid move to touch a highly trained alien operative, but he didn't care. "They are not drifters," he said, his eyes locking onto hers. "They are my friends. They fed me when I was starving. They hid me when the cops came. You want to talk about nobility? That is nobility, not sitting in a shiny tower deciding who is irrelevant." Lyra looked down at his hand on her armor. She could break his wrist with a twitch, but she didn't. She looked back up at his face, wet and dirty and fierce. She saw a loyalty there that confused her. In her world, loyalty was transactional. You were loyal to your house because they owned you. You were loyal to the empire because it fed you. This man was loyal to people who had nothing to give him but shared hunger. It was inefficient and strangely compelling. "Fine," she hissed, pulling her arm away. "We checked the camp. But if we die there, I'm going to be extremely annoyed. The underpass was a ruin. The floodlights that had blinded Noah earlier were gone, smashed by the raid." Now. The only light came from the flickering fires of burning tents. The smell of wet ashes and melted plastic hung heavy in the air. Noah slid down the embankment, his boots skidding in the mud. Oh God, the camp had been tossed. Shopping carts were overturned, their contents spilled into the puddles. The makeshift shelters of cardboard and tarp were torn apart. "Sal!" Noah shouted, forgetting to be quiet. "Maya!" Figures emerged from the shadows, hollow-eyed, terrified people clutching salvaged blankets. Noah? It was Maya, a woman in her 50s who wore 3 coats and had a smile that could usually light up the darkest tunnel. Tonight, she wasn't smiling. She was limping, holding a rag to her forehead. "Maya," Noah rushed to her. "Are you okay? Where is Sal?" "They took him," Maya whispered, her voice trembling. "The soldiers, the ones in the black armor. They were screaming about a signal, and they wanted to know about the man who made the machine scream. They beat Sal when he said he didn't know anything. Then they dragged him into a van." Noah's face went pale. He clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white. "Did they take anyone else?" "Jinx." Maya sobbed. "The little one. He tried to bite one of them. They hit him." "Noah." Noah spun around. "Where is he?" "Over there, by the pillar." Noah ran to where a small shape lay huddled under a wet wool blanket. It was Jinx, a scrawny 10-year-old runaway Noah had been teaching to read using discarded comic books. The boy was shivering, his face bruised and swollen. "Hey, Jinx," Noah said softly, dropping to his knees. The boy flinched, then opened one eye. "Noah?" "Yeah. Buddy. It is me." Noah reached into his pocket. He pulled out a slightly crushed foil-wrapped protein bar, the emergency stash he kept for the worst days. "I heard you fought a whole squad of alien super soldiers," Noah said, unwrapping the bar. "That is pretty tough." Jinx managed a weak, gap-toothed grin. "I bit one. Tasted like metal." Noah chuckled, but his eyes were bright with unshed tears. He broke the bar in half and handed it to the boy. "Eat up. It helps the swelling." Lyra stood a few feet away, watching. She stood in the shadow of a concrete pillar, her camouflage field rippling slightly. She watched this man, this genetically priceless artifact, kneel in the mud to comfort a child of no status. She saw the way he touched the boy's shoulder, the way his voice dropped to a soothing rumble. He carried himself not like a victim, but like a protector. She felt a pang of something sharp in her chest. "Shame?" "Lyra," Noah said, standing up. He didn't look at her. He looked at the burning tents. She stepped forward. "Why?" Noah asked, his voice low and dangerous. "Why did they come here? How did they know to look for me in a place like this?" Lyra hesitated. The truth was a jagged pill. "Because they put you here," she said quietly. Noah turned to her. "What?" "Decades ago," Lyra said, her voice clinical but strained. "The Empire began a program, Project Crown Seed. They wanted to create biological interfaces that could pilot our ships more intuitively than any purebred alien. But they needed a specific genetic substrate. Human DNA is adaptable, malleable." She gestured to the ruins of the camp. They needed test subjects that no one would miss. She continued. "The unregistered, the unwanted, they seeded the homeless populations of Earth with retroviral agents. Genetic modifiers disguised as vaccines or free clinic treatments." Noah stared at her. The noise of the city seemed to fade away, leaving only the ringing in his ears. "We are lab rats," he whispered. "You were the control group," Lyra said. "Most of the subjects rejected the modifications. They died of natural causes, cancers, organ failure. But you didn't just accept the modification. You integrated it. You bonded with the royal sequence. Noah looked at his hands. He looked at the scars, the dirt. He thought of his life, the struggle, the cold, the feeling of always being on the outside looking in. And now he was being told that his suffering wasn't just bad luck. It was engineering. You people, Noah said, his voice shaking. You come down here in your shiny ships and you play God with people who are just trying to find a meal. You made me this? You made me a freak? I did not know, Lyra said. The regret in her voice was real. I swear, Noah. I was told the bloodline was a myth. I did not know the cost. Noah looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the cracks in her composure. He saw the disgust in her eyes, not at him, but at herself, at her people. Show me, he said. What? Show me the proof. If I am an experiment, I want to see the lab notes. Lyra nodded slowly. There is an old facility, a biotech clinic in the Sunken District. It was abandoned 10 years ago, but the local servers might still hold the original project data. Lead the way, Noah said. And Lyra, if you are lying to me. I am not, she said. The clinic was a tomb of glass and water, located in a part of the city where the flood walls had failed years ago. The building was half submerged in the murky bay. Vines of bioluminescent moss hung from the ceiling like chandeliers, and the floor was covered in a foot of stagnant water. They waded through the lobby. It was silent, save for the drip of water and the hum of Lyra's scanner. Noah ran his hand along a rotting reception desk. He saw a dusty toy, a plastic robot with a missing arm, sitting on a chair. I remember this place, he murmured. Lyra looked up from her console. You do? I thought it was a nightmare, Noah said. I used to have these dreams, white rooms, people with glowing faces. They would give me candy that tasted like metal. They told me I was special. He stopped in front of a heavy door labeled Pediatric Observation. I was 6. Noah said, I came here for a broken arm. They kept me for 3 weeks. Said I had an infection. He pushed the door open. Inside, there were rows of small, child-sized chairs equipped with heavy leather straps. Noah stared at them. The memory hit him like a physical blow. The smell of antiseptic, the cold touch of the sensors, the feeling of burning heat in his veins. Lyra walked past him to a wall of server banks. They were dead, covered in slime. She pulled a cable from her wrist armor and jammed it into a port, powering up auxiliary core, she said. The screens flickered to life, casting a ghostly green light over the room. Lines of code scrolled by, alien script mixed with human medical data. Project Crown Seed, Lyra read. Subject 734, Noah. She pulled up a video file. It was grainy footage. A young boy, skinny and terrified, sat in one of the chairs. He was crying silently. An alien figure, tall and glowing, leaned over him with a syringe. Now. Subject, the alien voice purred. This will make you strong. This will make you a king. Noah watched his younger self scream silently as the needle went in. He turned away, bile rising in his throat. He punched the wall, his fist cracking the plaster. A king! He spat. They tortured a kid to make a remote control for their spaceships. Lyra watched the screen. Her face was pale. It is worse, she whispered. They did not just add alien DNA. They spliced in the progenitor sequence. Noah, you carry the genetic memory of the first dynasty. You are not just compatible with our tech. You are biologically superior to the Council. She turned to him. That is why they want you dead. You are living proof that their power is stolen. Noah spun on her. And you? What do you want? Lyra blinked. I want to save you. Unsave me? Noah laughed, a harsh, broken sound. Or save the asset. You are just like them. Lyra, you look at me and you see a code. You see a weapon. You do not see me. You do not see the guy who likes bad jokes and peanut bars. You see a ticket back to your family's good graces. No, Lyra said, stepping forward. That is not true, isn't it? Noah challenged. If I didn't have this magic blood, would you have looked twice at me in that underpass? Would you be standing in this swamp with me? Lyra opened her mouth, but the words died in her throat. He was right. If he had been normal, she would have scanned him and moved on. She would have left him to the rain. But things have changed, she said fiercely. I have changed. Because I am valuable. Because you are human, Lyra shouted back, her voice echoing off the wet tiles. Because you stopped to feed a child while you were running for your life. Because you make stupid jokes when you are terrified. Because you possess a spirit that my people lost centuries ago. She stopped, breathing hard. Her silver eyes were wide, vulnerable. I do not care about the bloodline anymore, Noah. I care about you. The silence that followed was heavy. Noah stared at her, his anger wavering. He saw the truth in her face. Before he could respond, the window shattered. Crash! A bolt of plasma sizzled through the air, scorching the wall inches from Noah's head. Get down! Lyra screamed. She tackled him into the water just as the room erupted in gunfire. The senator's kill team had found them. Lyra rolled, coming up with her plasma pistol drawn. She fired a suppressive burst toward the window. Blue energy arcs illuminated the dark shapes of soldiers rappelling down from the ceiling. They are breaching the roof, Lyra yelled. We need to move. She grabbed Noah's collar and dragged him toward the rear exit. Noah scrambled up, his boots slipping on the wet floor. He grabbed a heavy metal IV stand, swinging it like a club. A soldier dropped in front of them, wielding an energy blade. Lyra engaged him, her movements a blur of parries and strikes. She activated an energy shield on her forearm, catching the blade with a shower of sparks. Go, Noah, she shouted. Noah didn't run. He saw another soldier aiming a rifle at Lyra's exposed back. Hey, ugly, Noah yelled. He threw the IV stand. It cartwheeled through the air and smashed into the soldier's helmet. The soldier stumbled, his shot going wild. Lyra finished her opponent with a precision kick and spun around. You threw a stick at him? She asked, incredulous. It was a very heavy stick. Noah yelled. They sprinted into the hallway and the building was shaking. The kill team was using heavy explosives to bring the structure down on top of them. The floor ahead of them collapsed. A catwalk that spanned the flooded atrium groaned and twisted. Jump! Lyra commanded. She leaped, clearing the gap with ease. She landed on the swaying metal on the other side. Noah hesitated. The gap was wide. The water below was dark and filled with debris. Don't think, just jump. Noah squeezed his eyes shut and ran. He launched himself into the air. He fell short. His fingers clawed at the rusted grating. His legs dangled over the abyss. Noah, Lyra dove, grabbing his wrists. The catwalk groaned. The bolts were shearing off the wall. Lyra pulled, her muscles strained, the servos in her armor whining. She dragged him up inch by agonizing inch. Above them, a section of the ceiling gave way. A massive concrete slab plummeted down. Lyra! Look out! Noah screamed. He didn't think. He scrambled for footing and lunged forward, tackling Lyra. He drove them both sideways, rolling hard against the wall. Boom! The slab crashed exactly where Lyra had been standing a second ago. The impact shook the teeth in Noah's skull. Dust and pulverized concrete filled the air, choking them. They lay tangled together in the corner. Noah was on top of her, his arm shielding her head. He was coughing. his face streaked with white dust. Lyra stared up at him. Her eyes were wide. He had saved her. He, a fragile human with no armor and no shields, had used his body to protect her. Are you intact? Lyra whispered. Noah coughed again. I think I broke a rib. Again. He looked down at her. They were so close. He could feel the rapid rise and fall of her chest against his. He could see the intricate patterns of her tattoos swirling with intense, agitated light. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by something sharper. Something terrifying. You saved me, Lyra said, sounding amazed. You saved me first, Noah rasped. We are even. He didn't move. He couldn't. The fear of death had stripped away the walls he usually kept up. He was just a man, holding a woman he wasn't supposed to want. If we die here, Noah whispered, a shaky smile touching his lips. I am going to be really mad if I didn't get at least one kiss. Lyra looked at his mouth. She looked at the blood on his lip, the dirt on his cheek. She thought of the council, the protocols, the endless rules of her existence. To hell with the rules, she thought. She reached up, her cool hands cupping his rough face, and pulled him down. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was desperate. It tasted of dust and blood and ozone. It was a collision of two worlds that had no business touching. Noah groaned, a sound low in his throat, and deepened the kiss, his hands tangling in her hair. Lyra responded with a fierceness that surprised them both, her alien physiology humming against his skin, a vibration that went straight to his bones. For a moment, the gunfire and the crumbling building didn't exist. There was only the heat of their bodies and the frantic, undeniable truth of their connection. They broke apart, gasping. Lyra's eyes were blown wide, her pupils dilating. Her skin was flushing a deep, vibrant violet. That, she breathed, that was acceptable. Acceptable? Noah laughed breathlessly, resting his forehead against hers. Lady, I rocked your world. Lyra smirked, a genuine, dangerous expression. Do not get cocky, human. A laser blast scored the wall above them. Right, Noah said. Dying. We should stop doing that. They scrambled up. The intimacy lingered, a charged field between them. But survival took over. Down! Lyra pointed to a drainage grate, the flood tunnels. They pried the grate open and dropped into the rushing water below. The tunnels were dark, the water waist-deep and freezing. They waded through the current, the sounds of pursuit fading behind them. It was quiet here. The adrenaline crash left them both shivering. Noah leaned against the damp brick wall. I am scared, Lyra, he admitted quietly. Lyra stopped. She waded back to him. She took his hand, interlacing her long fingers with his. I know, she said. I do not want to be a king, Noah said. I do not want to be a weapon. I just wanted to be left alone. I know, she repeated. But you cannot go back. Noah, they know who you are. If we stay here, they will hunt you until they kill you. Or worse. So what do? We go up, Lyra said. She pointed upward, through the gloom. To the elevator? To the stars, Lyra said. We go to the High Dominion. We access the central bioarchives. We can use your genetic key to rewrite the protocols. We can expose the experiments. We can stop them from ever doing this to another child again. Noah looked at her. It was insane. It was suicide. Leave Earth? He asked. It is the only way to save it, Lyra said. Noah thought of Jinx. He thought of the toy robot in the clinic. He thought of the millions of people living in the shadows, invisible and disposable. He squeezed Lyra's hand. Okay, he said. Let's go steal a spaceship. They trudged forward toward the base of the orbital elevator. Ahead of them, The massive spire pierced the clouds, a ladder of light climbing into the void. There was no going back to the underpass. Noah looked at the elevator, and then at Lyra's glowing silhouette. He wasn't invisible anymore, and for the first time in his life, he wasn't alone. The elevator capsule was a teardrop of diamond glass, shooting upward along a tether of braided carbon that seemed to have no end. The acceleration pressed Noah back into his gel-cushioned seat, a sensation like a heavy hand pushing against his chest. Outside the transparent walls, the blue curve of Earth was falling away, shrinking from a horizon into a marble, and then into a jewel suspended in the crushing black. Noah pressed his palms against the glass. His fingerprints, usually stained with engine grease or street soot, were clean. He was wearing a gray tunic and trousers provided by Lyra's contact at the base, clothes made of a fabric that felt like silk, but adjusted to temperature like thermal gear. They were too tight in the shoulders and too loose at the waist, making him feel like a child playing dress-up in his father's suit. He stared at the stars. They were not twinkling. Up here, without the atmosphere to scatter their light, they burned with a hard, unblinking intensity. "So," Noah said, his voice sounding thin in the pressurized cabin, "this is the part where you tell me I am hallucinating and I am actually freezing to death in a puddle on 4th Avenue, right?" Lyra stood by the control console, her posture rigid. She had shed her fugitive's desperation and donned the mask of the aristocracy again. Her armor was polished, her bioluminescence dimmed to a respectful, formal glow. "This is not a hallucination." "Noah," she said, though she kept glancing at him. Her silver eyes tracked his movements, watching the way he looked at the cosmos with a mixture of terror and pure, unadulterated wonder. "It is a long way down," Noah muttered. "I guess this makes me the highest altitude vagrant in history. What kind of ID card do I get for this? Interstellar hobo. First class?" Lyra looked at him. The corner of her mouth twitched. Then, unexpected and soft, a sound escaped her throat. A laugh. It was not the polite social signaling of the courts, nor the bitter chuckle of the cynic. It was genuine. "You are ridiculous," she said, shaking her head. "I am terrified," Noah corrected, peeling his face away from the glass. "But if I admit that, I might throw up on these very expensive-looking boots." The capsule began to decelerate. Above them, the orbital station loomed. It was not a mechanical construct of metal and rivets, but a grown thing, a massive, spiraling nautilus shell of white ceramic and living tissue, pulsing with amber light. Ships the size of city blocks drifted in and out of its docking bays like bioluminescent whales. The capsule docked with a wet, organic thud. The airlock cycled, hissing as it equalized pressure. "Listen to me," Lyra said, her voice dropping to a command frequency. "From this moment forward, you are mute. You are my bond servant. You look at the floor. You move only when I command it. The security grid here is biometric, but your genetic profile is not in the criminal database yet. If you act like property, they will scan you as property." "Property," Noah repeated, testing the word. "I have been treated like garbage for 10 years. Property is actually a step up. At least people take care of their property." "Do not joke," Lyra said, stepping close to him. She fixed the collar of his tunic, her fingers lingering for a fraction of a second against his neck. "If they realize who you are, the senator will incinerate this entire station to kill you." "I am a statue," Noah promised, a silent, terrified statue. The doors dilated open. They stepped out into a cavernous atrium that smelled of jasmine and ozone. The floor was a transparent polymer, revealing the slow rotation of the station's gravity ring beneath them. Alien dignitaries in flowing robes glided past, accompanied by floating attendants. Noah kept his head down, but his eyes darted left and right. He saw trees growing out of the walls, twisted silver-barked things with leaves that glowed neon blue. He saw gravity fields shifting, allowing some beings to walk on the walls or ceiling. It was a kaleidoscope of wealth and power, a stark, violent contrast to the gray misery of the undercity he had left hours ago. "Halt!" A mechanical voice boomed. A security drone, hovering on anti-grav repulsors, blocked their path. Behind it stood two guards in the heavy insectoid armor of the Imperial Vanguard. "Identification," the guard demanded. Lyra stepped forward, her chin raised. She projected an aura of supreme, bored authority. "I am Lady Lyra of House Vale, operative clearance level Alpha 1. I am returning from a surface extraction mission." The guard scanned her retinal pattern. The drone beeped a confirmation. "And the human?" the guard asked, gesturing a weapon toward Noah. "My bond servant," Lyra said dismissively. "An acquisition from the lower districts. My personal transport requires manual maintenance that drones find difficult. He is crude, but he has nimble fingers." The guard looked at Noah. Noah shrank into himself, rounding his shoulders, mimicking the posture of the beaten and the broken. It was not hard. It was a pose he had held for years to avoid police beatings. "Scan him," the guard ordered. The drone swept a red laser over Noah. Noah held his breath. If the scanner was tuned to the royal frequency, the game was over. If it was a standard security sweep, he would pass as just another unregistered human. "Subject, unregistered human male." The drone chimed. "Status, low threat. Class, bondservant, clear." The guard grunted. "Losing interest? Move along. Lady Lyra." Lyra did not say thank you. She simply walked past them, expecting the world to part for her. Noah shuffled behind her, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. As they moved deeper into the station, Noah felt a strange, cold anger rising in his gut. He was walking through a palace in the sky, surrounded by beings who owned star systems, while his friends were freezing under a bridge. The unfairness of it was a physical weight. Lyra led him down a service corridor, away from the main promenade. They stopped at an unmarked door. She placed her palm against the lock, and it slid open, inside. The room was a chaotic jungle of wires, holographic displays, and hydroponic plants. A figure stood hunched over a workbench, dissecting a drone. "Dr. Eris?" Lyra called out softly. The figure turned. It was a Solarian, a species Noah had only seen in blurry internet videos. He was tall and thin, with large, dark eyes and skin the color of dried moss. "Lyra!" the doctor hissed, his voice sounding like dry leaves skittering on pavement. "You are alive, and you have brought a guest." "Doctor," Eris looked at Noah, his eyes widening. "Is this him?" Eris asked. "This is Noah," Lyra said. "Noah, please," Noah said, dropping the servant act. "Just Noah." Eris scrambled forward, pulling a pair of magnification spectacles over his eyes. He grabbed Noah's face, turning it left and right. "Remarkable," Eris muttered. "Phenotypical human, but the aura. The resonance is deafening. You are walking around with a nuclear reactor in your blood, young man." "Nice to meet you too," Noah said, pulling back. "Lyra said you could help us." "Help you?" Eris laughed nervously. "I am a retired geneticist hiding in a maintenance closet. But yes, I can explain what you are." Eris activated a large holographic table. A projection of the Empire appeared, thousands of stars connected by thin lines of light. The Empire is not held together by laws or armies. Noah, Eris explained. It is held together by the network, a bio-neural web that links every ship, every station, every scanner. It is a living nervous system. He pointed to the center of the map. The ruling council controls the network through codes, passwords. But the original architects, the progenitors, they didn't use passwords. They used their biology. Their DNA was the admin key. And that is me? Noah asked. Eris nodded. You are a living override, but it is more than that. You do not just open doors. You have the command voice. If you interface with the central biocore, you can broadcast a directive that rewrites the fundamental laws of the network. Political layers peeled back in Noah's mind. So I can just tell the ships to stop? He asked. You can tell them anything, Eris said. You can tell them to shut down. You can tell them to fire on the capital. Or you can tell them to lock out the council's authority forever. That is the plan. Lyra interrupted. We are going to broadcast a protocol of transparency. We will hard-code a law into the network that forbids covert genetic experimentation. We will make every black site lab visible. We will make it impossible for them to hide people like you ever again. Noah looked at the map. It was a revolution. And he didn't need an army to lead it. He just needed to speak. How do I do it? Noah asked. Eris pointed to a heavy, reinforced door at the back of the lab. The biocore node for this sector is behind that wall, Eris said. But you cannot just touch it. To broadcast a complex command, you need total neural integration. You need to be inside the system. And the system is overwhelming, Lyra added, her voice quiet. It will try to drown you. A human mind cannot process that much data alone. You will burn out in seconds. So I die? Noah asked. No, Lyra said. She stepped closer to him. Not if you have an anchor, someone to share the load, someone to filter the noise so you can focus on the signal. She looked at Eris. Prepare the symbiotic suit, she ordered. The preparation chamber was small, dim, and humid. In the center of the room stood a tank containing a translucent, viscous fluid that shimmered with silver flecks. Suspended in the fluid was the suit, a mesh of semi-organic filaments that looked less like clothing and more like a second nervous system. We have to be in contact, Lyra said, turning her back to him to unfasten her armor. Direct dermal connection. The suit binds us together. It syncs our nervous systems. Noah watched as she removed the heavy crystalline plates. He felt a sudden, sharp spike of anxiety that had nothing to do with the mission. You mean naked? Noah asked, his voice cracking slightly. Yes, Lyra said. She did not sound seductive. She sounded terrified. She turned to face him. She was stripped down to a thin underlayer. Her skin was a canvas of light, the tattoos swirling in agitated patterns. Noah felt incredibly unworthy. He was a guy who washed his clothes in public sinks. She was a masterpiece of genetic engineering. Turn around, Noah said, his face heating up. He stripped off the borrowed tunic and trousers. He felt exposed, not just physically but existentially. His body was a map of his hard life. The scar on his ribs from a police baton, the burn on his arm, the thinness of a man who missed more meals than he ate. Okay, he said. They stepped into the containment field of the suit. The air around them was thick, charged with static. Lyra faced him. She was inches away. He could see the pulse jumping in her throat. This is going to be intimate. Noah, she whispered. When the suit activates, there are no secrets. I will feel your fear. You will feel mine. I trust you, Noah said. And it was the truth. She stepped forward. Her cool skin touched his chest. Noah gasped. The sensation was electric. The suit, the liquid mesh, rose up around them, responding to their proximity. It wrapped around their legs, their waists, binding them together. It felt like warm mercury, sliding over their skin, pressing them into a single silhouette. Lyra wrapped her arms around his neck. Noah's hands found her waist. "Breathe with me," she instructed. "Sync your rhythm." Noah inhaled. Lyra inhaled. Snap. The neural link established. It wasn't a voice in his head. It was a flood. Noah suddenly felt the cold, sterile loneliness of a palace nursery. He felt the crushing weight of expectation, the fear of being discarded if she wasn't perfect. He felt Lyra's lifelong hunger for a connection she was told was weakness. And Lyra felt the wind biting through a thin coat in January. She felt the gnawing emptiness of a stomach that hadn't seen food in 2 days. She felt the fierce, protective love for a found family of outcasts. She felt Noah's deep-seated belief that he was trash, that he didn't matter. "You matter." Lyra's thought crashed into his mind, fierce and undeniable. "You are the most important thing I have ever found. You are lonely." Noah's thought echoed back, gentle and sad. "You have everything, and you have nothing." They trembled, their bodies pressed together in the viscous cocoon, tears leaking from their eyes. The boundaries between them dissolved. He was her, and she was him. They were blushing, shaking, overwhelmed by the raw, unfiltered humanity of the other. It was more intimate than sex. It was soul-to-soul contact. "We are one," Lyra projected. "Some focus on my voice. I will hold you. I have got you." Noah projected back. Suddenly, the red emergency lights of the lab began to strobe. "Alert! Alert! Unauthorized biosignature detected." The link wavered but held. "They are here," Lyra said aloud, her voice breathless. "The senator found us." The door to the preparation chamber hissed open. Dr. Eris stood there, looking panicked. "They hacked the sensors," Eris shouted. "They are breaching the outer lock. You have to get to the core now." Lyra and Noah moved. They didn't need to communicate verbally. The suit moved them as a single, coordinated entity. Lyra's combat training flowed into Noah's muscles. Noah's street brawl instincts sharpened Lyra's awareness. They burst out of the chamber, still encased in the shimmering, translucent biosuit. They looked like a deity of war, four-armed and glowing. Security drones swarmed into the lab, their weapon ports glowing red. "Left," Lyra thought. Noah moved left instantly, dodging a plasma bolt. "Jam the signal," Noah thought, spotting a loose power conduit. Lyra understood. She grabbed the conduit and whipped it toward the drones, discharging a massive electrical arc that fried their sensors. They moved through the lab in a dance of violence and grace. Lyra used her knowledge of the drone's blind spots. Noah used the environment, kicking over tables for cover, improvising weapons. They reached the heavy door of the biocore chamber. "Open it," Noah shouted, or maybe Lyra shouted it. It didn't matter. They slammed their combined weight against the manual override. The gears groaned and gave way. They tumbled inside. The biocore was magnificent. It was a massive, pulsating heart of light, suspended in a zero-gravity shaft. It was the size of a house, covered in tendrils of optical fiber and organic muscle. It hummed with a sound that vibrated in their teeth. "It knows I am here," Noah whispered. He could feel the core reaching out to him, like a dog recognizing its master. The interface console was a simple pedestal with a gelatinous surface. "Place your hand," Lyra guided him. "I will anchor you." Noah reached out. His hand, encased in the suit, sank into the gel. Contact. The universe exploded. Noah was no longer in the room. He was everywhere. He was the navigation computer of a freighter near Mars. He was the climate control system of a colony on Titan. He was the sensor grid of a dreadnought in deep space. He heard 1 billion voices. He saw 1 trillion stars. It was too much. It was an ocean trying to pour into a thimble. Noah. Lyra's voice was a lifeline, a rope pulling him back from the abyss. Filter it. Focus on the command protocols. Ignore the noise. Noah gasped, his physical body arching back against Lyra. He found the thread. He found the admin layer. Suddenly, a massive holographic projection flared into existence in the center of the chamber. It was the senator. He was seated on a throne of black stone, looking down at them with a mixture of disdain and hunger. "Stop," the senator commanded. His voice boomed through the neural link, shaking Noah's concentration. "Noah, look at you," the senator sneered. "A rat in a suit of armor. Do you think you can control this? You will burn your mind to ash. Get out of my head," Noah gritted out. "I can make it stop," the senator said, his voice turning like oil. "I can offer you a deal. Noah, step away from the interface. Pledge your loyalty to the council." Noah laughed painfully. "Loyalty? To you? Think about it," the senator urged. "No more cold nights, no more hunger. You can be the figurehead of the empire. You can live in a palace. You can have fleets at your command. You can snap your fingers and feed every homeless person on Earth if you wish. We will give you the power to do good. Within boundaries." Noah paused. The image of a warm bed flashed in his mind. The taste of hot food, the safety, the ability to just write a check and save Sal, save Jinx, save everyone he ever cared about. It was tempting. It was so incredibly tempting to just stop fighting and be safe. Noah. Lyra's mind touched his. She didn't argue. She didn't preach. She simply showed him an image. It was a memory from earlier that night. It was Noah kneeling in the mud, handing a crushed protein bar to a battered child. It was the look in his eyes, not pity, but solidarity. "This is who you are," she whispered in his mind. "You do not buy safety with submission. You build it with truth." Noah looked at the hologram of the senator. He saw the greed, the fear behind the arrogance. "You do not get it," Noah said, his voice amplified by the biocore, booming through the chamber. "I do not want your palace, and I do not want your permission to help people." He gripped the interface tighter. "If I am a legend," Noah roared, "then I am the legend that shuts you down. Terminate him." The senator screamed. The heavy doors of the chamber blew inward. A squad of elite guards stormed in, raising their rifles. Fire! Bolts of searing plasma streaked toward Noah and Lyra. Noah didn't flinch. He didn't dodge. He reached into the core. He grabbed the concept of protection and pulled. The biocore shrieked. Tendrils of light lashed out, faster than thought. They wove together instantly around Noah and Lyra, forming a cocoon of pure golden energy. The plasma bolt struck the cocoon and vanished, absorbed harmlessly. The guards froze. The biotech of the station was rebelling against them. The floor plates rippled, knocking them off balance. "Now, Noah!" Lyra screamed in his mind. "Do it!" Noah focused. He visualized the command. It wasn't code. It was intent, transparency, truth. No more secrets. He pushed the thought into the core. Pulse. A shockwave of energy blasted outward from the station. It wasn't destructive, it was informative. It passed through the walls, through the hull, into the vacuum. Across the fleet outside, lights flickered. On the bridge of the flagship, screens froze and rebooted, displaying the royal seal of the progenitors. In secret labs deep underground on Earth, locks disengaged, and encrypted files broadcasted themselves to the public net. It was a ripple, a glitch, A warning shot. The strain was too much. Noah screamed as the energy surged back through his arm. The link overloaded. He collapsed. The biosuit retracted, dissolving back into the tank, leaving them shivering and damp on the floor of the zero-gravity chamber. Noah lay still, his chest heaving, his eyes rolled back. Noah! Lyra scrambled over to him. She pulled his head into her lap. He was pale, his skin cold, but the biocore above them was pulsing in a new, steady rhythm, a rhythm that matched Noah's own heartbeat. He opened his eyes. They were unfocused, glassy. Did I turn off the lights? He mumbled weakly. You shook the stars, Lyra whispered, brushing damp hair from his forehead. You did it. Noah closed his eyes again, a faint smile on his lips. 5 minutes. Just need 5 minutes. Lyra cradled him, rocking him gently in the suspended silence of the chamber. She looked up at the core, then down at the man in her arms. I am here, she whispered, her voice fierce and tender. I am not going anywhere. I have got you. Noah, I love you. The alarms outside were silent. The universe held its breath, waiting to see what the homeless man would do next. The recovery suite was a bubble of silence suspended in the belly of the station. Gravity here was dialed down to a fraction of the standard pull, allowing the body to knit itself back together without the weight of the world dragging it down. Noah floated in the center of the room, tethered by a single soft cable attached to his ankle. He drifted in a slow, clockwise rotation, his arms loose, his chest rising and falling in a rhythm that was finally, after hours of erratic fluttering, steady. Lyra sat in a magnetic chair bolt-locked to the floor, watching him. She looked nothing like the high operative who had stormed the Undercity. Her armor lay in a pile in the corner, a heap of deactivated crystal and weave. She wore only a simple gray undersuit, stained with sweat and cooling gel. Her hair, usually bound in intricate gravity-defying braids, hung loose around her shoulders, a curtain of pale violet. She was exhausted. Her hands trembled slightly where they rested on her knees. The neural link, the profound soul-stripping connection they had shared in the biocore, had faded, but the echo remained. She could still feel a ghost sensation of his fear, his hunger, and his stubborn, illogical hope humming at the base of her skull. Noah groaned, his eyelids fluttering. He flinched, his hands grasping at empty air as if trying to catch a falling object. Easy, Lyra whispered. Her voice was raspy. You are safe. You are just floating. Noah blinked, his eyes unfocused. He saw the white ceiling, then the floor, then Lyra. He oriented himself, grabbing the tether to stop his spin. I feel like I drank a gallon of warp fuel, he croaked. You interfaced with a planetary network, Lyra said, offering him a pouch of water. It tends to leave a hangover. Noah took the pouch, his fingers brushing hers. The contact sent a jolt through both of them, a spark of the shared consciousness they had touched. He drank greedily. He lowered the pouch and looked at her. Really looked at her. He saw the dark circles under her silver eyes. He saw the way she slumped, stripped of her aristocratic posture. You look terrible, he said. Thank you, she replied dryly. You look like a reanimated corpse. Noah let out a short laugh that turned into a cough. He pulled himself closer to the floor, fighting the low gravity until he could sit cross-legged in the air, floating at her eye level. The humor faded from his face. He looked down at his hands, clean, healed, but still the hands of a man who had dug through dumpsters. He offered me everything, Noah said quietly. The senator, in the chamber. I know. Lyra said, I heard him. I thought about taking it, Noah admitted. The words rushed out of him, shameful and heavy. For a second, maybe more than a second, I wanted it. I thought about never being cold again. I thought about having a bed that didn't smell like mildew. I thought about walking down the street and having people look at me with fear instead of disgust. I wanted to sell out. Lyra. I wanted to be safe. He looked up at her, expecting judgment. He expected the noble operative to sneer at his cowardice. Lyra leaned forward. She reached out and took his hand. I know, she repeated, because I wanted you to take it too. Noah stared at her. You did? Lyra nodded. Not for the power, but because I wanted to be accepted again. All my life, Noah, I have been a tool, a very expensive, very beautiful tool. My father, the High Lord, looks at me and sees an asset. If I had brought you in, if I had let you become their puppet, I would have been the golden child. I would have been safe in their approval. I would have been home. She squeezed his hand. We are both cowards, Noah. We both crave the easy path. Noah looked at their joined hands, her violet skin against his pale, scarred knuckles. But we didn't take it, he said. No, Lyra agreed. We didn't. And that is the only thing that matters. We chose the hard way. We chose to be better than what they made us. The honesty hung between them, solid and binding. They weren't heroes. They were just two people who were tired of being used, clinging to each other in the dark. The peace of the recovery suite did not last. The universe outside was screaming. Lyra accessed the news feeds on a wall monitor. The image of the senator, Senator Malachor, filled the screen. He was standing on a podium, flanked by the banners of the High Council, citizens of the Dominion. Malachor's voice boomed, smooth and poisonous. We face a grave threat, a rogue biological experiment, a failed prototype from a darker era, has seized control of a sector biocore. This entity, known as Noah, is unstable. He is a terrorist who seeks to hold our infrastructure hostage. The screen shifted. It showed grainy footage from the underpass. It showed the scanner beeping. It showed Noah looking wild-eyed and dirty, being dragged toward the van. Look at him, Malachor narrated. A vagrant, a man of no standing, no discipline. Imagine this chaotic mind controlling the life support systems of your homes. We must neutralize this threat. Noah watched the screen, his jaw tightening. He is good, Noah muttered. He makes me look like a monster. He is terrified, Lyra corrected. Look at his eyes. He is blinking too much. He knows the biocore didn't reject you. He knows you have the royal signature. If the public finds out you are not a terrorist but a king, his power evaporates. So what do we do? Noah asked. We can't stay here. This station is going to be swarming with his kill squads within the hour. We stop running, Lyra said. She stood up, her exhaustion replaced by a cold, sharp resolve. He is controlling the narrative because he is the only one speaking. We need to speak louder. She brought up a map of the capital world. Ethelgard Prime. The council meets in session tomorrow, she said. All the High Lords, all the diplomats. It is broadcast live to the entire empire. You want to crash the party? Noah asked. I want to walk in the front door, Lyra said. We go there. We stand before the assembly. And you use the bloodline to force a new protocol. A protocol. A law, Lyra explained, hard-coded into the biological network. A law that bans genetic secrecy. A law that opens every file, every lab, every dark closet the Empire has. We trade them stability for truth. You offer to fix the glitch you caused in the biocore, but only if they agree to never hide a human being in the dark again. Noah looked at the map. It was a suicide mission, walking into the heart of the enemy stronghold, armed only with his blood and her wits. He smiled, a crooked, dangerous smile. "I hope they have a dress code," he said. I left my tuxedo in my other shopping cart. They stole a transport, a small, sleek courier ship that Lyra hot-wired with practiced ease. They slipped away from the station in the confusion of the fleet's reboot, jumping to hyperspace before the Senator's blockade could lock onto them. The journey to the capital took 6 hours. The courier ship was cramped, designed for speed, not comfort. The rear cabin was dimly lit by the blue wash of the hyperspace tunnel swirling outside the viewport. The hum of the engine was a low, steady vibration in the floor. Noah sat on the edge of the narrow bunk. He had showered and changed into a fresh flight suit, but he still felt the phantom grit of the undercity on his skin. Lyra was standing by the viewport, watching the stars streak by. She had put her armor back on for the escape, but now, in the safety of the slipstream, she began to dismantle it. She unclasped the crystalline pauldrons, setting them on the table with a heavy clack. She unsealed the magnetic locks of the breastplate. Piece by piece, the shell of the operative fell away. Noah watched her. He didn't speak. He couldn't. When the last piece of armor was removed, she stood in a simple, translucent body glove. In the dim light of the cabin, she was breathtaking. The bioluminescent patterns on her skin were not static tattoos. They were alive. They shifted and swirled, responding to her heartbeat, her emotions. Spirals of soft indigo light wound down her arms. Intricate geometric webs of pale gold traced the line of her spine. She turned to face him. She saw him looking. For the first time, she didn't bristle. She didn't hide. "Do I frighten you?" she asked softly. "No," Noah whispered. He stood up and walked toward her. The space between them felt charged, heavy with the unspoken things that had been building since the rain-soaked alleyway. He reached out. His hand trembled. "May I?" he asked. Lyra nodded. Noah touched her arm. His fingertips traced a line of glowing blue light that ran from her shoulder to her wrist. Her skin was cool, smooth as polished stone, but he could feel the warmth of the life beneath it. "You are art," Noah said, his voice thick with emotion. Lyra let out a shaky breath. She closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. "I was designed to be beautiful," she murmured. "To be a trophy for my house. My father paid geneticists a fortune to ensure my symmetry was perfect. Every mark on my skin is a receipt. Noah, I am a product." Noah moved his hand up to her neck, his thumb brushing the pulse point where her hearts beat a frantic rhythm. "No," he said fiercely. "You are not a product. You are Lyra. You are the woman who saved my life. You are the woman who laughs when she thinks no one is listening." He stepped closer, closing the gap. He could smell the ozone scent of her skin. "I am a mess," Noah whispered. "I am broken parts and bad memories. I am terrified that I am not enough for this. For you." Lyra opened her eyes. They shone with unshed tears. "You are the only real thing I have ever known," she said. She reached up, tangling her fingers in his hair, pulling him down. When they kissed, it wasn't like the desperate collision in the collapsing building. It was slow. It was deliberate. It was a question and an answer all at once. Noah wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her flush against him. The contrast of his rough hands on her delicate, glowing skin was stark, a visual representation of their worlds colliding. They moved to the narrow bunk. The darkness of the cabin was illuminated only by the light of her skin and the starlight outside. Lyra shed the body glove. Noah shed the flight suit. When skin touched skin, the sensation was overwhelming. Lyra gasped, her lights flaring brighter, turning a warm, flushed gold. Noah buried his face in the crook of her neck, breathing her in, anchoring himself in the reality of her. Their lovemaking was not a conquest. It was a conversation without words. It was Noah worshipping the body she had been taught to hate as a tool. It was Lyra holding on to the man the world had thrown away, treating him like he was the most precious thing in the galaxy. In the quiet dark, amidst the hum of the engine, they claimed each other, not as assets, not as royalty and peasant, but as two lonely souls finding a harbor in the storm. Afterward, they lay tangled together under a thermal blanket. Lyra's head rested on Noah's chest. He traced the fading patterns of light on her back. "Where do we go?" Noah asked quietly. "If we survive tomorrow." Lyra shifted, looking up at the ceiling. "I do not know," she said. "I cannot go back to my family, Amu. You cannot go back to the underpass." "I have a vision," Noah said, his voice dreamy. "It is stupid, tell me. I want a place where the doors don't have locks," Noah said. "A place where nobody cares about your data file. No scanners, no IDs, just people. A place where, if you are cold, someone gives you a coat, and they don't ask for a receipt." He paused. "I want a home where no one freezes. Lyra, that is all." Lyra listened to his heartbeat. It was strong. "My vision is different," she said. "I see an empire where the High Lords are afraid, not of assassins, but of the people. I see a council that has to answer for every credit spent and every life taken. I see power that bows to the powerless." Noah kissed the top of her head. "Your vision protects my vision," he said. They drifted in silence for a moment. "We can have both," Noah said. "We can build it." "Yes," Lyra whispered, closing her eyes. "We can." The capital world, Ethelgard Prime, was a jewel of cruelty. From orbit, it was breathtaking. Oceans of violet water, continents of silver forests. But as the courier ship descended, the scale of the opulence became crushing. The cities were not built on the ground, they floated in the sky. Massive platforms of crystal and anti-gravity tech, tethered to the peaks of mountains. The council chamber was carved directly into the summit of the highest peak, a spire of living quartz that pierced the stratosphere. Lyra guided the ship into a private docking bay reserved for her family. She keyed in an old code, holding her breath. "Access granted." "They haven't revoked my clearance yet," she said, exhaling. "They must think I can still be turned." They disembarked. Lyra had found a formal suit for Noah in the ship's emergency wardrobe, a diplomat's attire of dark blue velvet with a high, stiff collar. Noah tugged at the neck. "I feel like a penguin wrapped in a curtain," he muttered. "You look distinguished," Lyra said, straightening his lapels. She was back in her armor, her face composed, the mask of the operative firmly in place. But she squeezed his hand before they stepped out. They walked through the corridors of the family estate attached to the mountain. The walls were lined with holographic portraits of her ancestors, stern, glowing figures who looked down with judgment. "Lyra," the voice was sharp, echoing down the marble hall. A figure stepped out of the shadows. It was Varen, Lyra's older brother. He was taller than her, his armor heavier, his bioluminescence a cold, aggressive red. "Varen," Lyra said, stopping. Varen looked at Noah with a sneer of pure disgust. "So," he said, "the rumors are true. You have brought the pet to heal." "He is not a pet," Lyra said, her voice icy. Varen ignored her. He stepped closer, looming over them. "Father is apoplectic. Lyra, you have shamed this house. But there is a path back." He gestured to a pair of guards waiting behind him. Hand the human over to me. We will take him to the containment wing. You will walk into the chamber alone and tell the council you captured the terrorist. Your honor will be restored. You will be a hero. Noah watched the siblings. He saw the tension in Lyra's shoulders. He saw the way Varen looked at her, like she was a broken appliance that could be fixed with the right lie. He stepped forward. Lyra, Noah said softly, you can do it. Lyra turned to him, shocked. What? I mean it, Noah said. You can walk away. I won't blame you. You get your life back. You get your family. I can handle Varen. He looked at the large alien warrior. I mean, I will probably get beaten to a pulp, but I will make a lot of sarcastic comments while it happens. Lyra looked at Noah. She saw the offer for what it was, a final act of love. He was giving her an out. She turned back to Varen. My honor? She asked quietly. Yes, Varen said, smiling. Your standing. Your legacy. Lyra laughed. It was a cold, sharp sound. There is no honor in this house, Varen. Only fear dressed in silk. She drew herself up, her violet lights flaring with intensity. I have chosen my side, brother, and it is not with the butchers. It is with him. Varen's smile vanished. He reached for his weapon. Lyra was faster. She didn't draw a gun. She simply projected a command from her gauntlet, a high-frequency sonic burst. Varen and his guards clamped their hands over their audio receptors, staggering back, disoriented. Come on, Penguin, Lyra said to Noah. They ran past her stunned brother, bursting through the double doors that led to the council chamber. The chamber was a cavern. The walls were faceted crystal, refracting the light of the three suns outside into a blinding array of rainbows. In the center of the room was a suspended platform. Surrounding it, rising in tiered rows like a Roman Colosseum, were thousands of pods. The high lords, the senators, the diplomats of 100 worlds. They floated in their pods, a sea of alien faces, robes, and armor. The air was filled with the murmur of 1,000 conversations, which died instantly as Lyra and Noah walked onto the central platform. Silence fell like a hammer. On the far side of the platform, standing on a raised dais, was Senator Malachor. He looked down at them, his face twisting in a mix of triumph and fury. So, Malachor's voice boomed, amplified by the acoustics of the crystal. The prodigal daughter returns, and she brings the monster with her. Noah stood in the center of the platform. He felt small. He felt the weight of 1 billion eyes watching him through the broadcast drones hovering overhead. He tugged at his collar. He is shorter than I expected, a voice whispered from a nearby pod. He smells of carbon. Another sneered. Malachor stepped forward. Look at him, the senator shouted, pointing a clawed finger at Noah. This is the savior the radicals speak of? A man who slept in filth? A man who begged for scraps on the streets of a backward colony? He is a genetic mistake, a glitch. He is unfit to hold the keys to a starship, let alone an empire. Noah listened. He felt the old shame rising, the shame of the soup kitchen line, the shame of the averted eyes. He clenched his fists. You do not buy safety with submission. Lyra's voice echoed in his memory. Noah stepped forward. He tapped the microphone on the podium. It shrieked with feedback. Is this thing on? Noah asked. His voice echoed through the massive chamber. A few nervous titters rippled through the crowd. Sorry, Noah said. I am new to public speaking. Usually when I shout, I am just asking for spare change. He looked up, meeting the gaze of the senator. Yeah. I slept under a cardboard roof, Noah said. His voice lost its humor. It became hard. It became the voice of the street. I ate food you wouldn't feed your pets. I froze while you people flew overhead in ships that cost more than my entire city. He looked around the tiers of the council. You call me a mistake. You call me unfit. But you know what? When you live at the bottom, you see things. You see the cracks in your perfect foundation. You see the people you stepped on to build your palaces. He pointed at his own chest. You put your code in me. You made me a key. Well, guess what? You forgot to change the locks. Malakor's face turned purple. Silence him, the senator screamed. Guards, kill him. A squad of Imperial guards on the perimeter raised their plasma rifles. Noah didn't flinch. He turned to Lyra. Ready? He asked. Always, she said. Noah closed his eyes. He didn't need a biosuit this time. He didn't need a tank. The biocore was everywhere, though it was in the walls. It was in the ships outside. It was in the guns pointed at his chest. He reached out with his mind. He found the network. It greeted him like a roar of thunder. Interface. He felt the weapons charging. He felt the trigger mechanisms. Stop. He didn't shout it. He thought it. The rifles in the guards' hands sputtered. The plasma coils whined and died. The energy cells went cold. The guards stared at their weapons in confusion, slapping them, trying to reboot them. Malakor stared, horrified. He slammed his hand on his podium. Override, he screamed to his aides. Manual override. Shoot him. Noah opened his eyes. They were glowing, not with a reflection, but with an inner golden light, the royal resonance. You can't shoot me, Senator, Noah said, his voice amplified by the room itself. I am the system now. He turned to the cameras, to the billions watching across the stars. I am offering you a deal, Noah said. I will stabilize the core. I will stop the glitches, but in exchange, I am sending a new protocol. He raised his hand. The air around him shimmered as the biocore responded to his gestures. Protocol 0, Noah announced. No more secrets, no more hidden labs. Every genetic experiment, every black budget project, it all gets published. Today, right now. He looked at the council. You want your ships to fly? You want your lights to stay on? Then you accept the truth. Malakor pulled a sidearm from his robes, an old kinetic projectile weapon that didn't rely on the network. I will not let a rat dictate the law, Malakor screamed. He aimed at Noah. Lyra moved. She didn't have a weapon, but she threw herself in front of Noah, her arms spread wide. Noah saw the gun. He saw Lyra moving. No, he roared. He didn't just push a command. He pushed himself. He poured every ounce of his will, every drop of his anger, every shred of his love for the woman standing in front of him into the network. Send. The chamber exploded with light. It wasn't an explosion of fire. It was an explosion of data. Holographic screens erupted into existence in front of every pod. Files, videos, documents, millions of them began to scroll at breakneck speed. The hidden history of the empire, the torture, the experiments, the truth. The lights in the crystal mountain flickered violently. The gravity stabilizers groaned. Malakor fired. The bullet left the barrel, but the air itself seemed to thicken. The gravity around the platform twisted, warped by Noah's uncontrolled surge of power. The bullet curved, caught in a gravity eddy, and slammed harmlessly into the floor. Alarms began to scream, a deafening, galaxy-wide wail. System reboot initiated. Protocol 0. Uploading. Noah fell to his knees, blood trickling from his nose. The strain was tearing him apart. Lyra caught him. She held him up, glaring at the senator, glaring at the council. It is done, she shouted over the alarms. The truth is out. You cannot stop it. The chamber plunged into darkness as the main power failed. leaving only the terrified screams of the elite and the golden glow of the man who had just rewritten the rules of the universe. The galaxy did not end with a bang. It ended with an error message. Across 3,000 inhabited worlds, the great silence fell. In the high-altitude laboratories of the Proxima sector, genetic sequencers ground to a halt, their centrifuges spinning down into stillness. On the orbital shipyards of Titan, the living hulls of dreadnoughts stopped pulsing, their command decks illuminating with a single unyielding directive. Access denied. Authorization. Key Royal Bloodline, Protocol 0 active. Scientists in sterile white coats stared at their monitors in horror. Generals smashed their fists onto tactical tables as their fleets refused to acknowledge encrypted attack orders. Every covert operation, every dark site experiment, and every unauthorized bioscan was instantly frozen. The network, the nervous system of the Empire, had developed a conscience, and that conscience had the genetic signature of a homeless man from Earth. Inside the Crystal Mountain on Ethelgard Prime, the chaos was suffocating. The darkness that had swallowed the council chamber lifted, replaced by the amber emergency lighting of the facility's backup generators. Noah was on his knees, gasping for air. The golden light that had poured from him was fading, settling into a low, steady hum beneath his skin. He felt drained, as if he had run a marathon while carrying the weight of a starship. Lyra was beside him instantly, her hands gripping his shoulders. "Breathe," she whispered. "Just breathe." "You did it. You did." The biocore, suspended above them in the center of the chamber, was no longer erratic. It pulsed with a calm, rhythmic beat, syncing perfectly with the thudding of Noah's heart. The system had not crashed. It had rebooted. Around them, the High Lords and Senators were in an uproar. Their pods drifted closer, a circle of sharks smelling blood in the water. "He has locked the system," one shouted. "He is a terrorist," screeched another. Senator Malachor stood on his podium, his face a mask of purple fury. He hurled his useless kinetic pistol to the floor. "Kill him!" Malachor roared, his voice cracking. "Tear him apart with your bare hands if you must. He has seized the state." A squad of Imperial guards stepped forward, their armor clanking, but they hesitated. They looked at Noah, who was slowly getting to his feet, supported by Lyra. They looked at the biocore, which glowed with the same golden light as the man's eyes. "Stand down," a new voice cut through the noise. A pod descended from the highest tier. It belonged to High Counselor Taryn, a young and reform-minded leader who had long been silenced by Malachor's faction. Taryn looked at Noah with a mixture of fear and awe. "If you kill him," Taryn said, his voice amplified by the room's acoustics, "the network collapses. What are you saying?" Malachor spat. "Look at the readings," Taryn said, gesturing to the holographic displays that were slowly flickering back to life. He did not just issue a command, he integrated himself. His biosignature is now the root administrator of the entire Imperial grid. If his heart stops, the fail-safes engage. The fleets will drift. The life support on 1,000 worlds will fail. The silence that followed was heavier than the darkness had been. "You mean?" Malachor whispered, his hands shaking. "We cannot touch him?" "I mean," Taryn said, looking directly at Noah, "that he is no longer a subject of the Empire. He is its heartbeat." Taryn glided his pod down to the platform level. He stepped out, his robes sweeping the floor. He approached Noah, stopping a respectful distance away. "We cannot undo what you have done," Taryn said. "And frankly, given the files that are currently decrypting on the public net, I am not sure we should." Noah wiped a trail of blood from his nose with the back of his expensive velvet sleeve. "I am not turning it off," Noah rasped. "No more secrets." "That was the deal. We accept the deal," Terran said, "but we cannot have a rogue element controlling the infrastructure. We need a designation, a role." "I am not your emperor," Noah said, stepping away from Lyra's support to stand on his own. "I do not want your chair." "Then be our conscience," Terran proposed. "We will create a new title, Guardian of Integrity. You will have authority over bioethical standards. You will have the power of veto over any project that violates the new protocols. You will be the watchman." It was a cage. Noah knew. A gilded cage to keep him close, to keep him from burning the whole thing down. But it was also a platform. Noah looked at Lyra. She gave a microscopic nod. "Fine," Noah said. "I will be your guardian. But I am not doing it from a tower, and I am not doing it alone." He pointed a shaking finger at the assembled council. "I am going to be the voice for the people you forgot," he said. "The homeless, the unregistered, the ones you used for spare parts. You are going to hear from them. Every single day." A murmur of assent, some reluctant, some relieved, rippled through the chamber. The coup was over. The revolution had won without firing a shot, or so they thought. Malachor was watching them from his podium. His political life was over. The files Noah had released were already destroying his reputation across the sector. He saw the guards backing away. He saw the council bowing to the street rat. "If I cannot rule the empire," Malachor hissed to himself, "then no one will." He reached inside his robes and pulled out a small, flat device. It was not a weapon, but a remote disruptor, a kill switch designed for the neural implants of high-value slaves. It was tuned to overload the cerebral cortex of anyone interfaced with the bio-core. "Die, mongrel," Malachor whispered. He pressed the activation stud. Lyra felt it before it happened. Her bond with Noah, forged in the symbiotic suit and tempered by their intimacy, was a live wire. She felt the spike of malicious energy targeting him. "Noah!" she screamed. She did not think. She did not calculate the odds. She simply moved. She dove in front of him just as the air crackled with invisible, distorting energy. Crack. The disruptor beam hit Lyra squarely in the chest. It was designed to fry a neural implant, but hitting her bioluminescent physiology acted like a lightning strike hitting a power station. She was thrown backward, her body arcing in the air. Her lights, the beautiful violet constellations on her skin, flared blindingly white and then went dark. She hit the crystal floor with a sickening thud. "Lyra!" Noah screamed. The sound tore out of his throat, raw and animalistic. He dropped to his knees beside her, gathering her into his arms. Smoke rose from her chest. Her skin was gray, the light extinguished. Her eyes were open, staring at nothing. "No. No. No," Noah babbled, his hands hovering over her injuries. Terrified to touch her. "Do not do this." "Lyra, breathe. Please, breathe." He looked up, his eyes locked onto Malachor. The senator was smiling, clutching the device. Noah's panic vanished. In a single heartbeat, it was replaced by a cold, absolute clarity. It was the focus of a predator. He did not stand up. He did not yell. He simply reached out with his mind. He grabbed the network. He did not ask for permission. He seized it by the throat. "Found you." The biocore above them turned a deep, angry crimson. Malachor's smile faltered. The device in his hand began to heat up. "What? What are you doing?" Malachor stammered. Noah's voice didn't come from his mouth. It came from every speaker in the room. It came from the comms devices in the senator's pockets. It came from the walls. You wanted to be seen. The voice boomed, "So let them see you." Noah didn't just overload the disruptor. He traced the signal back to Malakor's personal cloud, the deepest, darkest, triple-encrypted archives that even Protocol Zero hadn't reached yet. He ripped them open. Above the platform, a massive hologram materialized. It wasn't a chart or a document. It was a video. It showed Malakor ordering the purge of a colony. It showed him laughing as a rival senator's shuttle exploded. It showed him signing the order for Project Crown Seed, the order that had tortured a 6-year-old Noah. The entire council gasped. The broadcast was going out live. Every citizen in the Empire was watching a snuff film starring their most powerful politician. Malakor dropped the burning device. He looked at the guards. "Help me!" he shrieked. "He is insane!" The guards looked at the hologram. They looked at the broken woman on the floor. The captain of the guard stepped forward. He walked up to Malakor and struck him across the face with the butt of his rifle. Malakor crumpled. "Senator Malakor," the captain said, his voice dripping with disgust. "You are under arrest for treason, crimes against sentience, and being a piece of filth." "Take him," Noah said. His voice was quiet now, just a man's voice again. "Get him out of my sight." As the guards dragged the screaming senator away, Noah turned back to Lyra. "Medics!" Terran shouted, rushing forward. "Get a trauma team here now!" Noah ignored the politics. He ignored the cheers that were starting to rise from the city outside as the truth set the people free. He only saw the woman who had jumped in front of a bullet meant for him. "Stay with me," Noah whispered, pressing his forehead against hers. "You promised. You said we were going to build a home. You do not get to quit now." A faint, flickering pulse of violet light appeared at her throat. A heartbeat. The medical bay was quiet, a stark contrast to the revolution burning outside. Lyra lay in a suspension tank, submerged in a healing gel that glowed soft blue. Her skin was pale, the intricate tattoos currently dim, recovering their charge. Noah sat in a chair beside the tank. He was still wearing the velvet suit. Though he had torn the collar open, he hadn't slept in 30 hours. He hadn't eaten. He just watched the vitals monitor, counting every beep. High Counselor Terran had come by earlier to discuss the transition of power. Noah had told him to go to hell, or at least to the waiting room, until Lyra woke up. A hand pressed against the glass from the inside. Noah jumped up. Lyra's eyes fluttered open. They were hazy, but they found him instantly. The fluid in the tank drained away with a hiss, and the glass shield retracted. Lyra sat up, coughing up the oxygenated gel. Noah was there, wrapping a thermal blanket around her shoulders before she could even shiver. "Hey," he whispered, his voice cracking. "Welcome back to the land of the living." Lyra blinked, focusing on his face. She reached up and touched his cheek. "You look terrible," she rasped. "I have been told that is my signature look." Noah managed a weak smile. Lyra looked down at her chest. The burn mark was gone, healed by the advanced tech, but the memory of the pain lingered. "Malakor?" she asked. "In a cell," Noah said. "Or maybe a darker hole. I stopped paying attention after they dragged him out. The whole Empire knows what he did. There are riots, Lyra, but good riots. People are celebrating." Lyra leaned back against the pillows and a shadow crossed her face. "They are celebrating the truth," she said quietly. "But I was part of the lie for so long. Noah. I served that council. I hunted people like you." Noah took her hand. He squeezed it hard. "You were a soldier following orders until you weren't," he said firmly. "You broke the cycle. That is what matters." Lyra looked at their joined hands. I feel heavy, she admitted. I dove in front of that beam because I couldn't bear the thought of a universe without you in it. But now we have to actually live in it. And I am scared. Noah nodded. He felt it too. The imposter syndrome was a physical weight in his gut. I am a guy who eats beans out of a can. Lyra. Yesterday I had to ask a diplomat how to use the bathroom sink because it had 3 faucets. And now I am supposed to be the guardian of integrity. I feel like a fraud. I feel like any second they are going to realize I am just a bum in a stolen suit. Lyra turned her hand over, interlacing her fingers with his. You are not a bum, she said fiercely. Status is a game they invented to make themselves feel important. Worth isn't about where you sleep or who your father was. It is about what you do when the weapon is pointed at you. She looked into his eyes. You stood up for the whole galaxy. Noah, you are not a fraud. You are the only real thing in this entire city. Noah rested his forehead against hers. Home, he whispered. You said home is people who see you fully. I see you, Lyra said. Then I am home. Noah replied. 2 weeks later, the shuttle touched down in Sector 4. It was raining, of course. It was always raining in the Undercity, but the air tasted different. The acrid sting of unregulated chemical runoff was fainter. Noah stepped off the ramp, his boots splashing into a puddle. He was wearing his old leather jacket, cleaned and patched over a simple shirt. No velvet. No armor. Lyra walked beside him. She wore a long coat, but she hadn't activated her camouflage field. Her skin glowed softly in the gloom, a beacon of violet light. They walked toward the underpass. It had changed. The makeshift tents were still there, but they were reinforced with new, weather-resistant materials. There were portable heating units humming in the corners. A medical drone painted with the official seal of the Guardian hovered near the entrance, dispensing checkups. But it was still the underpass. It still smelled of wet dog and instant noodles. Noah! A voice cracked through the rain. A small shape hurtled toward them. Noah caught Jinx midair, swinging the boy around. Easy. Tiger, Noah laughed. You are getting heavy. Are you actually eating vegetables? Jinx grinned, missing a front tooth. We got pizza deliveries now. Real pizza, not the dumpster kind. Noah set him down. Maya was there, leaning on a new cane that looked like it was made of high-grade alloy. And behind her, sitting in a motorized wheelchair that definitely wasn't scavenged, was old man Sal. Look at you, Sal grunted, though his eyes were shining. You clean up nice, for a garbage rat. I try my best. Sal. Noah grinned. Sal looked at Lyra. He looked at her glowing skin, her alien eyes, the way she stood close to Noah's side. And this is the one? Sal asked. The one who kidnapped you? I prefer to think of it as an aggressive first date, Lyra said, a dry smile touching her lips. Sal cackled. I like her. She is shiny. Good for finding keys in the dark. The group laughed. It was an easy, warm sound that chased away the chill of the rain. Other people from the camp gathered around. They didn't bow. They didn't treat Noah like the guardian of integrity. They treated him like Noah. So one of the guys called out, You go from pushing a shopping cart to flying a starship. That is a hell of a commute. Noah, the mileage is terrible, Noah shot back. And the parking is a nightmare. Someone whistled at Lyra. Hey, glowy girlfriend. Does he let you drive the saucer? He crashes into asteroids if I don't, Lyra deadpanned. Noah shook his head, feigning offense. That happened one time. As the laughter died down, Noah stepped up onto a concrete block, his old soapbox. The mood shifted. The people looked at him, really looked at him. They saw the changes. They saw the weight he was carrying now. "Listen," Noah said. His voice didn't need amplification here. "I know things are changing. I know the drones are nicer and the food is better, but I also know the system is slow. It is going to take time to fix everything." He looked at Maya. He looked at Jinx. "But I promised you I wouldn't leave you behind. And I meant it. Up there." He pointed a thumb toward the sky, where the lights of the capital twinkled through the clouds. "They talk about protocols and treaties. But down here, we know what matters. We know that nobody is disposable." He took Lyra's hand. "I am going to keep yelling at them until every single person under this bridge has a key to their own door. I am going to be your headache in the sky." A cheer went up, ragged, raucous, and real. Lyra watched him. She saw the love in their faces. She realized that this messy, wet, loud community was stronger than any royal court she had ever stood in. Their new home was not a palace. It was a habitat module on the edge of the diplomatic enclave, a neutral zone between the surface and the orbital ring. It was modest, 3 rooms, a kitchen that Noah was slowly learning to use without setting off fire alarms. But it had one luxury, a massive viewing window that spanned the entire outer wall. From here, they could see everything. To the left, the curvature of Earth, blue and white and resilient. To the right, the star-filled void, the infinite possibilities of the Empire. It was late. The station was on night cycle, the lights dimmed to a soft amber. Noah and Lyra lay together on a plush sofa, wrapped in a thick, hand-knitted blanket that Maya had given them as a parting gift. Lyra's head rested on Noah's chest, her ear pressed against the steady thump-thump of his heart. Noah traced the patterns on her arm with his fingertips. He marveled at it, the way the light ebbed and flowed with her breathing. It was a miracle that this connection, once impossible, was now his Tuesday night reality. "You are thinking loud again," Lyra murmured, not opening her eyes. "I was just thinking," Noah said softly. "If you had told me that night, when you put that scanner to my chest, that the beeping meant I would end up here, on a couch in orbit, with the most beautiful woman in the galaxy, you would have thought I was hallucinating?" Lyra finished for him. "I would have asked what you were smoking and where I could get some." Noah chuckled. Lyra laughed, shifting to kiss his jaw. "The universe has a twisted sense of humor." "Noah," she whispered. "It likes to hide its best punchlines in the dark." Noah tightened his arm around her. "We have a meeting with the Titan delegation tomorrow," he said. "They want to discuss labor rights for the asteroid miners." "Boring," Lyra sighed contentedly. "Necessary," Noah corrected. He looked over at the shelf on the wall. Sitting there, dismantled and deactivated, was the gene resonance scanner, the sleek black device that had started it all. Noah had taken it apart, removing the sensor core and the alarm unit. Inside the empty casing, he had placed a simple, warm-toned LED bulb. It was a lamp now, a small, handmade light that glowed softly in the corner of the room. It no longer searched for a bloodline. It just kept the darkness at bay. "You know," Noah said, his eyes drifting back to the window. "I used to think legends were these perfect golden people, like statues. And now?" Lyra asked, looking up at him. "Now I think legends are just people who are too stubborn to stay where they were put," Noah said. "They are just people who refuse to let the world tell them they are trash." He looked out the window. A relief ship, bulky and ungraceful, painted with the medical cross, was gliding past their habitat, heading down toward the gravity well of Earth. Its transponder was broadcasting open, transparent data about its cargo. Food, medicine, blankets. It was heading for Sector 4. Noah smiled. He kissed Lyra's forehead. Being a legend isn't about the blood, Lyra. It is about making sure that kid Jinx never has to grow up thinking he is disposable. It is about rewriting the story. Lyra rested her hand on his chest, over the heart that had changed the world. Then let us write a good one, she whispered. They watched the ship disappear into the clouds of Earth, two small figures in a vast window, holding hands against the backdrop of infinity. The little lamp on the shelf glowed on, a beacon of a legend rewritten by love, courage, and the choice to finally, truly, be home.